Black mark from McLaren.
Action from Belgium, round 13 of the Formula One Grand Prix.
After I'd actually done the time when they told me I was P3, I was ecstatic, obviously, but then you always think, maybe if I'd gone that little bit better there, I could have been second or first. You're never pleased until you're first.
Look at that! Jenson Button goes third ahead of Michael Schumacher. This young man is incredible.
The third here in qualifying it's outrageous. I love it. It's great.
Jenson right on the button in qualifying at sunny Spa. What a contrast today. Heavy cloud, mist and rain for the Belgian Grand Prix. Hello there, welcome to the ITV studio. We told you so. At the end of qualifying, we are in for a wet one. A lot of rain through the night. Felt a bit more like mid-November arriving here this morning. More rain, the popular forecast. Take a look what happened to Giancarlo Fisichella in morning warm-up. 145-mile-an-hour smash in the Benetton. A really nasty one. Fisichella emerging with nothing worse than a damaged knee. He will be racing, though, in the spare. They could not repair that Benetton. Delighted Eddie Jordan alongside Tony Jardine. Interesting place this whenever we come here. Particularly interesting in the wet.
Well, we have good memories from the wet here, of course, and I'm not particularly perturbed about the weather today, but never anything can, you never know what's going to happen.
There is a suggestion that the race might be starting behind the safety car.
Well, I think it would be a prudent decision, and even though, we were the beneficiary, if you like, of that huge accident 2 years ago, but no one wants to see that kind of thing again. And I see no reason why it can't at least start under a pace car, and it lets the grid form in a proper fashion. And hopefully the FIA and the stewards will agree to that, because certainly I'm one of the advocates that it should be. We'll know very shortly.
No matter how it starts, your man Trulli is up there on the front row. Second time this year. He was there in Monaco as well.
Well, I think this is particularly nice because, Monaco is a place where they all believe that it's a driver that either likes it or he doesn't like, where Spa is beyond all doubt the driver's favourite track, and for him to be on the front row ahead of particularly people like Michael Schumacher, it's great buzz for him. And he's a young driver in the team, and himself and Heinz-Harald Frentzen are making a very good job of it now. It's coming very strong.
Mentioning Heinz-Harald Frentzen there, Tony, what did you make of the sort of continuing spat between Heinz-Harald and David Coulthard in qualifying?
Well, not overly much about it, other than they spoiled each other's runs, and ultimately it affected their grid. But Heinz-Harald Frentzen did say in his first incident, I inadvertently turned in, saw David at the last moment as he did there. But of course that spoiled the last part of David Coulthard's run there through the bus stop. And then it happened again a bit later. Ron Dennis there watching very, very closely as David's lap time affected. David also admitted he was struggling with grip, and here this time was Heinz-Harald Frentzen on his flying lap, and David going around slowly, turning across in front of him. I don't know whether it was tit for tat Ed or not.
Well, there's a very sad thing about this particular situation, that neither driver made any gain from it, and in actual fact they detracted from the overall position where they're starting from today, and particularly on a wet race like it's going to be. The further up the grid is even more important. And this is not the forum to point blame. I think both drivers have spoken to each other. I think the first particular incident was Heinz admitted that he just turned in initially, but he still gave him the room and the time. The sad part from our point of view with Frentzen was that he had to abort the whole lap and it was taken from him, so it was a big loss for both.
Okay, terrific gain for Jenson Button here yesterday though, Tony. Third best of his brief F1 career.
Well, I think it's tremendous performance. I mean, Eddie, all the other team owners have literally been open-mouthed watching the guy. Even there, you know, the inside rear wheel there over the curb and so on, right from the beginning of practice. Wet or dry, he's been sensational. And this is the big test. Here in Monaco, big test for a Grand Prix driver. In his first season, it's just a tremendous performance. He is ahead of Michael Schumacher, he's ahead of Ralf Schumacher. I don't know how Ralf is going to take that, but it's just sensational, nothing short of.
Quick word from you about Jenson Button.
I have to be guarded about Jenson. What do you want me to say?
I said a quick one.
What are you going to say? He's useless or he's great? Whatever happens, I lose.
Yeah.
But it will be interesting. Tony brought up a very nice point about Ralf. I remember 2 years ago having a bit of a struggle with Ralf to get him to be sure that he had to race for a team when he was behind Damon. The vital thing was to finish first and second. I'm wondering how Ralf and Jenson will feature this particular weekend.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
Thank you very much. Well, no matter what happens to Jenson here today, he is on the move. He goes from Williams to Benetton. Let's have a word with his two bosses, shall we? His future boss, Flavio Briatore, coming up in just a moment. But first of all, we're going to hear from Sir Frank Williams.
Clearly, as a schoolboy, and he's got no respect for the elder drivers around him. But he just is terribly smooth in these fast corners. And the car's getting very well with him. But a remarkable performance from a man who is going to be dominating Formula 1, I would imagine, in a few years' time.
Which I suppose does beg the question, Jenson's performance this afternoon coming so soon after he's been announced as a Benetton driver next year. Is there kind of any sort of second thoughts about that?
Well, there are always second thoughts because we're always human. But we made a choice quite a while ago, we hope for a very good reason. And the only gratification and today is that, well, not the only one, is that of course Jenson has to come back in 2 years' time for a further 2 years. I expect we'll be looking forward to that very much.
I think so. Frank have a different idea, and Montoya maybe is much better, and who knows. But I'm very happy to see Jenson there, and I'm very happy for my team for next year.
Right then, Tony, take us through the grid for the Belgian Grand Prix.
Well, Mika Häkkinen, the man to beat, wet or dry, totally rejuvenated. Truly, he's requested that they all try and get through the first corner neatly and carefully. Button, his best ever and the team's best ever this year. Michael Schumacher's had all the fans doing a big rain dance, the German fans, all night. He's got his wishes. David Coulthard got it all to do from that position on the grid. And Ralf was balked, he said. Villeneuve, surprisingly, not going flat out through a Rouge. And Heinz-Harald Frentzen, we know about. Herbert equaling his best from Germany previous in this year. Barrichello well back. Fisichella, awful weekend for Benetton. You saw him crashing this morning. Heidfeld alongside Zonta. Zonta couldn't get through a Rouge properly. Denise De La Rosa and the Arrows disappointing. That low downforce car meant to go very well here, and it hasn't been. A lazy caused that yellow flag incident at the bus stop towards the end of practice. Verstappen suffering like De La Rosa, and Genet and Mazepin in the Minardis on the back row of the grid as usual.
Well, last year, for the first time in something like 13 years, we actually had a dry Belgian Grand Prix weekend. The injured Michael Schumacher was missing, but the McLarens, well, they had a field day.
Good one for David Coulthard, who edges up alongside Mika Häkkinen, who is on the inside. And Damon Hill has already been passed by Schumacher.
Coulthard, then Häkkinen, two cars stalled on the line, but it's a 1 minute 47 second lap, so plenty of time to clear those stranded cars. A message on the computer, Mary. Incident involving car 1 under investigation by stewards.
Car 1 is Mika
Häkkinen, of course. Watch this start again. Coulthard squeezing Häkkinen up against the wall, and the two McLarens actually touched. What on earth's going on here with three abreast there? It looks more like a super speedway race.
It's a Lacey taking Barrichello.
Häkkinen in the pit lane. Everything seems to be going well. A wipe of the visor. First gear, it says on the other side of that lollipop. Oh no, some kind of drama there. And he's away.
Johnny Herbert out of the race again, sadly, in the steward. This man who had such appalling luck.
And here's Coulthard. Yes, he's got away. No stall in the engine. A great stop for Coulthard. And think that's going to give him another 4 seconds of lead.
Sarlo comes up to take his teammates.
This battle is significant because Ralf Schumacher has been lapping at the same pace as the cars in front. At this rate, it's just 19 seconds behind Irvine. Irvine's got to stop again, which means that Ralf could pinch 4th place off Irvine. So Sarlo has to hold him up.
And David Coulthard comes home to victory at Spa in Belgium. A brilliant win. He's dominated from the beginning, and David Coulthard wins in Belgium.
David Coulthard's first victory at Spa, his favourite circuit. He could do with an action replay this afternoon. So far this weekend, though, David Coulthard has been a bit off-key. After qualifying, he chatted to James Allen.
There's a few unfamiliar names in front of you on the grid tomorrow. Is that going to pose any kind of problem, do you think?
Well, the only one who hasn't been there before is Jensen. Obviously, Jarno was in front in Monaco. Yeah, the further down the grid you are, the more difficult it is because you run in dirty air. We just have to see how the start goes and take it from there, really. You know, none of us have a crystal ball, so that's why we have to wait until tomorrow to see what's going to happen.
Since your mega performance at the French Grand Prix, Mika seems to have taken the initiative, but it seems to have been based largely on a series of amazing starts that he's made. Is there something in the way he handles the levers or the clutch or anything else that he does differently from you that gives him that opportunity?
Well, obviously I study the data to try and understand exactly what he does relative to myself, and he's just hooked it up with very little wheel spin initially and got good starts. You know, we're only talking maybe 2-3 tenths up to a certain speed, but that's enough at a start to gain the places that he's gained. You know, I do those sort of starts regularly in practice, but I just haven't managed to repeat it in the heat of the battle or the start of a Grand Prix. So each one of my starts I did yesterday were equal to the 2 starts he did in Hockenheim and Hungary. If I can do that tomorrow, I'll be looking good.
The good news is, though, it's still very close in the championship. There's only a few points in it between the 3 of you. A lot, 50 points available between now and the end of the series. Is there such a thing as a make or break race at any point? I mean, obviously right now it's just ebb and flow.
Yeah, definitely. It's, you know, championship's not won until your nearest contender can't get more points on you. So in the same way, it isn't lost. And it's going to be close, I think, for the next few races. You know, as we speak, Mika's looking very strong because he's on the pole, and Michael and I are 4th and 5th, and Rubens is even further back. But that doesn't mean that's the way it's going to be tomorrow. And obviously, my goal is to try and get as many points as I can. It's going to be an interesting few races, you know, starting with tomorrow's race.
You must be chuffed, though, that McLaren seem to have got some clear air now in performance terms between yourselves and Ferrari. Both in Hungary and here this weekend, they did seem to have fallen back 3-4 tenths behind you.
Yeah, certainly. If you look at the qualifying performance of Mika relative to the Ferraris, then that's certainly the case. And I think had I had a clean run, then, you know, I don't know Michael's qualifying session, how it went, whether that was his genuine quickest lap, but certainly there was a quicker time available from me. Not enough to get the pole, but certainly enough to be in second. And it does look like we have a little bit of advantage, but it's turning that into 10 points on race day. And you know, there hasn't been a good run of pole sitters taking the win. So you know, nothing against Mika, but I hope that's the case and the 5th place man comes through and wins this one.
5 to go then. Coulthard 6 points behind Häkkinen, favourite for the championship and odds on to win today. Michael Schumacher, he's won here 4 times. He's had another victory taken away on a technicality. Barrichello has only scored 1 Spa point in 7 races. And Fisichella, well, he has had a quite dreadful weekend so far. 6 wins apiece then for McLaren and Ferrari, separated by just a single point, a massive gap really, back to the 4 teams battling for 3rd, and they include Eddie's yellow Jordans. Eddie, what about David Coulthard? Is he going to be world champion this year or not?
David's in a very difficult position. He's starting this race where he is on the grid in 5th place, and unless he finishes 1st or 2nd, he can really start thinking that his days for this championship are over. I'm pretty brutal about my assessment on that because the number of races in the future absolutely favour Mika Häkkinen, and he has to pull out a big performance today, and personally I hope he can do.
It's the start that he's particularly worried about as he comes out now, like all the other cars, about half an hour to go to the start here. And we're hearing actually that it's not actually going to be started behind the safety car. There's a bit of a row going on over there because I think 1 or 2 team bosses, Ron Dennis, for example, like you want to start behind the
Well,
safety car.
when I came here about half an hour ago, the conditions were such and the cloud base was very low, and I was just thinking that perhaps, you know, unusual as it may be behind a pace car, I just thought that let's get this race away without the massive incidents that can happen. It's a very tight first corner and it's very prone to accidents. Let us start and let us have a safe race. However, I'm not privy to the current conditions and whether it's getting better or not. But at that time, coming in here, yes, I was in favour of a safety car.
I might have missed it. Who do you fancy to be world champion of the big three?
You'd have to go with Häkkinen at this stage. You know, McLaren have definitely found another gear. No question about it. Michael Schumacher, as good as he is, although this is his kind of weather, he will be very strong here.
They've been doing the rain dance for him so far. Okay, Eddie, thanks very much indeed. Let's just sample a lap of Spa in one of Eddie's yellow Jordans. It is Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the dry, by the way, and Martin Brundle to talk you round.
On board with Frentzen, then he needs a clear lap. He's not yet in the race, up to 160 miles an hour before turning into La Source, just 35. Run over the rain gully, try and get the car straight, and then apply the throttle. Very, very cool and calm so far for Frentzen. Eau Rouge coming up 180 miles an hour, 185 now. Click the curb on the left, make sure you touch the curb on the right, pop over the crest into Radion. Again, calm for Frentzen. Now listen how long the engine is in 7th gear, maximum rev, climbing up the hill towards Lecombe, 205 miles an hour, down to 3rd gear. He plucks it on the apex, 85 miles an hour now, building up to 105. You can sweep through Malmedy in 4th gear, lean on the curb on the exit, up to 170 miles an hour before breaking downhill into Rivage, 2nd gear, 70 miles an hour. Despite the camber, you can't get on the power too early. Now catapult into turn 9, 135. It beckons you, but you have to be cautious. They didn't get on the power early. Now heading downhill once again to Thorn, up to 185 miles an hour in 6th gear, down to 140, turn in early. Let the car sweep wide. Now you should not have to lift the throttle again before the exit. 170 miles an hour, building to 190. Bring the car to the left for Fagner, 3rd gear. Frentzen's only in 4th at the moment, 85 miles an hour. Takes another one on the apex, now catapults into the first part of Stavolo, which is just 70 miles an hour through the apex. Coming over the 2nd timing point now, 150 miles an hour. Surprisingly, a little lift there from Frentzen. This is where Fisichella went off in the warm-up for his huge accident. Now it's very, very fast, building up to 195 miles an hour through the left kink before Blanchimont. Again, a slight lift for Frentzen, 195 now going through the exit, and throw out the anchors before the bus stop. Trying to hang on to the back end of the car, makes his own racetrack on the way through the first part of the bus stop. 2 more curbs to launch across on the exit, and over the start-finish line. The driver should have to pay for this privilege.
Longest and quickest circuit of the year is Spa. Well, that's what things look like at the moment, Eddie, and that's David Coulthard. It's still pretty wet out there.
This is not the kind of race I think I'd like to be involved in because, as I say, because of the trees and the lack of wind, that rain and that spray is going to be around for a long time, and it just sits over the top of the cars. Visibility for a driver. Today they earn their money without any hesitation.
As we've been saying, though, this was a lovely circuit for you, wasn't it, Spa? Jordan's favourite circuit. You had quite a day here a couple of years ago with Damon, in pretty similar conditions, actually, I seem to remember.
If we could pack up and rekindle all the good days we've had here over the years and bottle it up and produce it at every other race circuit, I think we could become world champions almost immediately. But sadly, we're not exactly, even though we say it ourselves, we're not exactly sure why our cars are quick here.
But the other thing, you had a bit of a problem that day with Ralph, because I think he came through on the radio, he wanted to go past Damon Hill, and you and the engineers got on the old radio to him and said, hold station, hold station. Then after that, brother Michael came down to his motorhome and gave him a roasting as well for not letting Ralph come through and overtake.
I think people do very strange things in the heat of the moment.
Yeah, come on, that's not what you said afterwards.
Michael was being a complete nuthead, and he came down quite belligerent and told us what we should do and how we should run our cars. I reminded him his colour of his suit was not the same one as ours, so would he please mind his own business, but in a fairly jovial way. But he was quite clear about it. He wanted Ralph to win the race. We were after 2 drivers, first and second. The team comes bigger and better than any individual, and that must always be the case.
Okay, well, starting alongside Michael Schumacher today is Jenson Button. It's amazing to think that a year ago a 19-year-old Jenson Button was driving in Formula 3. So are there more young guns to follow him? Murray Walker has been investigating.
For over 30 years, the traditional route into Formula 1 has been through Formula 3. It's a single-seater series, 2-litre engines. The cars are very sophisticated, and if you can do well in Formula 3, you're likely to do well in Formula 1. Ayrton Senna did. Martin Brundle fought against him all through 1983. It's where Jackie Stewart started, Alain Prost, Michael Schumacher, and now Jenson Button, who only last year was in the British Formula 3 series. So, in the closing stages of this year's series, we've come to Silverstone to check on tomorrow's heroes. Top of the list is Thomas Scheckter, son of world champion Jody, and Brazil's Antonio Pizzonia, the current championship leader.
Today England is the strongest place in the world for motor racing, and that's why I think it is important to be here and learn a lot. And of course the Formula 3 it's always really strong championship, and all the Formula 1 teams are looking to the Formula 3 drivers. That's why I'm racing here.
British F3, if you look who's gone, Jenson Button's gone to F1 last year, Antonio's testing for Benetton this year. It seems to be a very good proving ground. If you're quick enough, you can make it into Formula 1, and you don't have to look at Formula 1 so massively like it's an impossible job and you have to have massive experience. If you can drive something quick, you can jump into F1 and be quick as well.
While the British series has been a magnet for many foreign drivers, the homegrown talent's still coming to the fore. Gary Paffett has been a revelation this year, winning Formula 3's scholarship class. He's also benefited from Jenson Button's success.
It just gives all young drivers inspiration to know that they can do it. We've thought before that we can do it, but now you know you can do it because Jenson's done it. And you think, well, I was as good as Jenson, I was beating Jenson, I should be able to go and do it. So it's given us a lot of inspiration to know that we can go and do it. And it's also pointed us out to all of the team managers that they know that we can do it as well.
Another Formula 3 race winner is Bristol's Ben Collins.
Went to America last year to try and get into Champ Car, and couldn't get a budget to stay out in Indy Lights despite having a really good season, so it was a shame. But you know, to come back to Formula 3 wasn't like a backward step. It's still, I think this year is probably the hardest year there's ever been, and it's a very good year to be in it. You're learning a lot, you're racing against the best, and if you can beat them, then you deserve to go on.
Back in Jody Scheckter's time, drivers raced in 2 championships at once, and Scheckter Jr.'s doing the same, racing in Formula 3 and F3000. Bruno Junqueira has just won that championship, but instead of Formula 1 is looking to follow Juan Pablo Montoya, who won Formula 3000 in '98, to Champ Cars in the USA.
Montoya told me that the car is very similar to 3000, but on the other hand, I already drove Formula 1. I'm Williams test driver, and I know that Formula 1 car is very exciting to drive. I think if I can get on top Formula category next year, I'll be very, very happy.
So a new pattern seems to be emerging. Formula 3 feeds Formula 1, and Formula 3000 feeds American Champ Cars. But as for who will make it big, we'll have to wait and see.
Jenson Button has made it in. If you'd have been Frank Williams, would you have let him go?
I'm not the person you should ask about that. I think Frank has lost it. I think he's lost complete control of his marbles. They're gone, because anyone who's developed Jenson Button and seen the talent emerge like what we've just seen, spend a year doing that and then releasing him to a rival team for 2 further years, I just can't understand that logic. But maybe Frank has his own answer to reply of.
Okay, you've got to go back over there, 20 minutes to go to the off. Before you go, you've got a birthday party next weekend, haven't you?
Believe it or not, we've survived 10 years in this business, and we're having a little party to celebrate that in Donington next week, and we have huge arrangements of different things, both with racing cars and different exciting things, and we have a rock and roll party that evening with a celebrity list that you'll be very happy and proud to have there.
It's all next Sunday though, yeah?
It's all next Sunday in Donington. It's a special day. I'll just give you one little example that the rock and roll music will knock a lot of people down. It is just sensational.
I hope you have reason to celebrate this afternoon. Thanks for joining us always.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot, man. Bye. There is Michael Schumacher. The Germans doing a rain dance, and their wishes seem to have been fulfilled, although it is dry at the moment. When you rejoin us, Martin Brundle, with his anorak, will be strolling down the grid.
Johnny Herbert, you found an excellent balance with the car on Friday. Have you maintained that this morning?
I didn't know a word you said at the beginning. I think I heard the last bit. It's okay. I think we weren't too bad this morning with the balance of the car. So you know, hopefully we can keep that momentum going in the race. The conditions, by the look of things, are going to change as the race progresses, and that's going to make it interesting.
OK, you're going to leave Formula 1, but now things are starting to click with Jaguar and yourself. How are you feeling?
I think I heard that as well. They should be OK as far as, you know, I'm concerned. You know, the American thing is coming along nicely, so it's unfortunate. Yes, it's starting to come together, but, you know, I've made my mind up.
OK, thanks a lot.
Fine. I think I should be okay for the race. I just back in the knee, and I have a little pain in the neck, but it's okay.
The shattered Benetton will be rebuilt and used as the spare this afternoon. Bridgestone have introduced 2 new tyre compounds for Spa, a heavy-duty and an intermediate wet. Jaguar, Ferrari and BAR tested the intermediates for the first time this morning with varying degrees of success. This morning's conditions gave the drivers their first opportunity to try the cars with a wet setup. Was this a radical new front wing at McLaren? No, the team had just forgotten to remove the covers before sending Coulthard onto the track.
There'll be an inquest about that. Well, race strategy is always a very tricky call. 2 stops, very much the norm here at Spa. But these sort of conditions present their own special problems. More on that from James.
You're dead right, Jim. Normally in the dry, this is a 2-stop race, clear and cut. But as soon as you get a bit of rain, a lot of people think of playing it safe and going for 1 stop. Trouble with Spa is there's a big time penalty for carrying the extra weight of a 1-stop fuel load. So I expect most of the front runners to stick to the original plan and stop twice today. What they might do is put a little bit more fuel in for the first stint, particularly if the weather forecast tells them there's a break in the weather coming up. They might try and stop then. Safety cars also will keep the strategist on their toes today. What I can tell you, I've just spoken to the Williams strategist, and he assures me they're going to put Jensen on an aggressive strategy. They're going to try and win this motor race today.
Bookmakers tell me that Button's odds have come in from 100 to 16 to 1 to win his first Grand Prix here this afternoon. Let's pop down and have a word with Martin Brundle, shall we? Now, Martin, what is the latest on the start? Safety car or not?
I think it's still very much under discussion down here, Jim. Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a nice bank holiday weekend. Just want to remind you just what a short run it is down to the first corner and how narrow the track is, and why it's always quite critical here at Spa for the start of the Grand Prix. This is the safety car with a rather powerful engine, going to be driven by Bernd Mailander. I wonder if we're going to see that used today. Normally it would disappear about 5 minutes before the start procedure. It can stay here up to 1 minute, and I know Charlie Whiting, the race director, is still canvassing the drivers to find out how much standing water there is on the track. Bad accident here 2 years ago, of course, but I have to say, in my view, there's nowhere near enough water on the track, certainly at this end of the circuit, to warrant a safety car. Here are the 3 types of tyres that Bridgestone have put out for ITV to have a look at. This is the intermediate they ran this morning, but it blistered, that it will not be used this afternoon. This is the medium tyre that seems best suited, and this is for with heavier grooves if it really rains. Now, I've spoken to 4 or 5 teams, got completely different story on what they're expecting this afternoon in terms of weather. Some teams say it's not going to rain again. Other teams say it's going to rain extremely heavily around 2 o'clock. So I think there's a half a chance we can just get a quick word here with Jensen Button, and he's talking to Charlie Whiting. Charlie Whiting canvassing Jensen's opinion, which is amazing when you think this is his first Grand Prix here, let alone in these conditions. But we'll just wait for that one to finish. So Charlie Whiting, race director there. Jensen, watched you out on the circuit Saturday, super smooth, got it up to 3rd on the grid. You were quick in the rain this morning. You seem to have it covered always.
I think so. The car's been working great all weekend. From the first time I stepped foot in it on Friday, the car's been working very well. We've changed a few things since then, and it just seems to suit the circuit very well. Obviously, Beamer have done a good job on the engine as well, and obviously we're looking for a good result, but with this condition, anything can happen.
All right, well, you were the quickest car on the track at the end of Hockenheim when it was raining hard, and you were quick again this morning in the wet. You seem to really, you know, in these conditions, you must be expecting to be a challenger, surely.
I'd hope so. In practice this morning, we were a couple of tenths off Mika, but all I can say is I can't wait.
What did Charlie Whiting say to the race director? He wants your opinion, presumably, on whether you think you should start with a safety car.
Yeah.
And what did you tell him?
I can't really say that, can I?
Well, you can say that you're not going to give anything away. Do you think it should or not?
I think it should.
think it should start under the safety car. Thanks for the time you've given us. I know that you want to get your head into gear. Good luck. Let's wander over and see if we can find the Coulthard. He is... Ron, should this race start under the safety car or not?
I think it'd be prudent, and I think hopefully it'll happen that way. I think there's a high chance of first corner accident without the safety car, and why not eliminate that risk?
That's a yes. See you. Right to Coulthard. He's down here, 5th on the grid. Pretty poor qualifying for David. He only really got one decent lap in. Let's see if we can find him. He's talking to engineer Pat Fry. They're having a bit of a technical talk here, so I don't want to cut in at that point. We got 30 seconds left, but DC got 30 seconds left. What's your view? How wet is the track around the far side?
It's still wet enough to mean that, you know, in this area here you're going to have very bad visibility. So although it looks like it would be quite safe to start without a safety car, I think the safest thing is to have one. Although that obviously takes away any chance that I might have of gaining places at the start.
Do you think they will then start under safety car, or do you think it looks too dry to me, frankly?
Yeah, that's the problem. You know, from standing outside it looks too dry, but it's what happens on the track, and it is a difficult call for Charlie. But I think if Michael and Alex, being the other two GPD guys, if they agree, then I think we'll go with it. So let's wait and see what they decide.
Your strategy today?
I need to move up the grid, so I've got to go for it. It looks like it might dry up, so we'll take a punt and set up, hoping that it does dry.
Thanks for talking to us. Well, a lot of different views on whether the safety car should start this race. Back to you, Jim.
Well done down there, Martin. This fella, safety car or not, goes so well round here.
Yeah, we had to think about, you know, his first win here in '92. He was the first to come in and put slicks on in the wet. He did it again in '95 from his worst ever grid position, went out on slicks in the wet.
Michael Schumacher we're talking about, of course.
Michael Schumacher is the rain master. You just saw Herbert there. You know, in '97 he did an extra reconnaissance lap in the wet when it did start behind the safety car. He went on intermediates then when the rest went on wets. He must not be discounted.
There we are then, Mika Häkkinen, the new World Championship leader on pole, chasing his first win at Spa. Jarno Trulli on the front row in the Jordan. Button, best ever starting spot for him. Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard up there. Coulthard hoping to get the start right this time. Will it be the safety car or not? We will find out very shortly. It's the Belgian Grand Prix. It's live only on ITV. A massive crowd at Super Spa-Francorchamps. The vast majority hoping for a Michael Schumacher masterclass in the wet. Let's join Martin Brundle and Murray Walker. Murray, good afternoon. How are they going to start the Belgian Grand Prix?
Pass. Absolutely. Pass. I don't know. We'll have to just wait and see. If Martin can't update us from the front of the grid, we've just got to wait until Charlie Whiting makes his mind up. But I'll tell you this is going to be a great race from our point of view, because the teams have got the classic dilemma at Spa. In qualifying it was bright, sunny, hot and dry. We're going to be starting behind the safety car. That is absolutely for sure. Take it from me. Yesterday it was hot, dry and sunny. This morning at 2 o'clock I got out of bed because the rain was making so much noise. I had to see how hard it was falling, and the answer, very hard. It's been raining all this morning. You can see, looking down at this classic Ardennes circuit, that it's wet. It's wet. It's wet in most parts. It's damp in the drier parts. The teams are going to have a real problem about which tyres to fit. Some of them may even decide to start on the normal dry weather tyres in the hope that it will dry out quickly and they'll get a benefit straight away when the others have to come in and change. I don't think that will be the case, but we'll have to wait and see. It looks good for Mika Häkkinen, to be honest. He's done well all the way through practicing. He took qualifying position. He was fastest this morning, but he's got two young guns alongside him. Jarno Trulli, who's only been on the front row of the grid once in his life at Monaco, and of course the fantastic Jenson Button, who is starting third on the grid ahead of Michael Schumacher. Michael Schumacher, the Rainmaster, who has won here 5 times in Belgium, one of them disallowed, but nevertheless, this is his circuit. It's anybody's guess. What's yours?
Well, I'm very surprised, really, in a way they're starting behind the safety car, but I guess they're mindful of the huge accident that happened a couple of years ago. But in my view, that wasn't because of torrential rain or standing water. David Coulthard got out of shape as they went over the rain gully and lost the car. So I don't particularly think that was a start situation as such, other than I think it was more like a normal accident scenario. But, however, the drivers have had the benefit of going around the rest of the track. Very, very long circuit here. You so often, as we saw in Hockenheim, on a long track where it's dry at one end and wet at the other. I was testing here last year in the middle of the year for Toyota in the Le Mans car, and it was snowing. The test actually got snowed off. So, strange weather around here. Talking to 4 or 5 teams, some say it's going to rain very heavily before the end of the race. Others say it's not going to rain for the rest of the afternoon. Completely different scenario. But, of course, the drivers at the front, and Häkkinen in particular, will be very, very pleased about this safety car situation. He was nervous, clearly, in the press conference yesterday after qualifying, realising he's got Trulli alongside him, who's relatively experienced, and young Jenson just behind him, who he was quite clearly, without sort of being negative towards the younger guys, he was quite clearly concerned about it. So it suits all of those at the front. Michael Schumacher may well have been asking for the safety car start, but he probably had the most to gain by having a regular start.
Well, whatever, the La Source corner is the one that has caused problems at the beginning of many a Belgian Grand Prix. So Mika Häkkinen, I think, has got most to gain from this situation. He'll come behind the safety car. He'll know when it is going to pull in. He will have a clear track in front of him, and he'll have a car's length advantage over the rest.
Well, they're just taking the covers off, as you can see, and the medium wet that I showed you on the grid walk is the one that every car I can see out of the window has on. So, unsurprisingly, that is the tyre they're going to run. They don't need, there's not a lot of deep standing water anywhere, and I don't think they'll have aquaplaning problems. They will all have to have lifted the car this morning because the plank and the floor underneath can powerboat sometimes if there's a lot of standing water later on in the car, just aquaplaning off the road, literally because of the water pressure on the floor of the car, lifting the wheels off the ground. So the cars will be a bit higher. They will have softened them off with the anti-roll bars, softened the springs a little bit, Jenson Button 2 on those medium wets, and I think also they will have added some fuel to give themselves a bigger window. They noticed this morning after 12 laps of running the track was not fully dry at all, so they're expecting the track to take about 20 laps to dry, I think, unless the sun bursts through, and I imagine they'll be running just a little bit longer in this first stint than they would normally do so.
I would think that when the lap times come down to around about 2 minutes, and the pole position time this year was Mika Häkkinen's 1 minute 50.6 seconds, when the lap times come down to around about 2 minutes, we can expect to see them coming in and switch to dry tyres if it doesn't rain. My hotel proprietor, who's a bit of a weatherman, says it is going to rain, so again, we'll have to wait and see.
So I'm expecting when they get round to the end of this lap, Murray, that they'll just carry on behind the Mercedes-Benz. And actually, I think it's the wrong call. I know it's dangerous out there. I know it's terrifying. I've raced here many times in the rain. That first lap, heading up to Les Combes, you can't even see your own steering wheel sometimes. But, you know, we've started races here at Spa with 5 times more water on the track than they've got there. I really think this is an overcautious call this time.
Well, just let's remind you what the order is behind the safety car as they make their way down from Les Combes to Rivage, which is turn 8 in this 22 corner circuit, 4.4 miles long. Mika Häkkinen is leading round, and behind him is Jarno Trulli, the young Italian in the yellow Jordan. Then it's Jenson Button, Michael Schumacher, the Rainmaster. David Coulthard is 5th on the grid. Ralf Schumacher is 6th, so both the Williams BMWs are in the top 6.
So safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. Effectively, the clock has started for the race. And so they're counting this as the formation lap. As normal, this is part of the Grand Prix, just like the green flag lap would normally be as they go round to the grid, with the exception that there will be no start procedure. So the race starts now. My understanding of the computer here is the safety car will peel off into the pit lane, will not go through the bus stop, and it's then Häkkinen who becomes the safety car, effectively, becomes the pace setter. But I think he'll be long gone by then, if he understands. And the teams will now be on the radio to the driver saying, safety car is in this lap, and that's going to confuse more than a few of them.
Yeah, and they have to hold station until they've gone over the start and finish line, and that of course is before La Source. Is anybody going to get the jump on the man in front of him or the men in front of him? It calls for superlative timing in this situation when the cars are already rolling on the track. Jarno Trulli having a look on the inside of Mika Häkkinen's McLaren. There's Ralf Schumacher. Jacques Villeneuve is well up. Watch him. He's in 7th position in the BAR. And this year he's not got through La Source flat out.
There's almost a dry line.
Eau Rouge, sorry.
There's very few of them. I don't think I've ever seen a trace in my life where they genuinely went flat out, and the green flags are waving. This race is effectively underway now.
So, safety car, we're looking at them as they come through the chicane, and the Belgian Grand Prix at racing speeds is on. Mika Häkkinen leads Jarno Trulli. Michael Schumacher has a look on the inside of Jenson Button as they go round La Source. No changes yet. David Coulthard still there in 5th position, and Michael Schumacher closing up marginally on Jenson Button as they come into Eau Rouge. It looks flat, it's anything but over the crest. So there is Button, Schumacher, and Schumacher is definitely closing on the Williams.
Yes, Button quite cautious through Eau Rouge there. Michael's got a run at him, but I don't think he's close enough. Coulthard's not far behind either, and now they're all in the ball of spray. So Jenson Button's got the visibility. Coulthard trying to go around the outside there of Michael Schumacher. So he appears to have some good straight line speed. That'll come in useful later on. Meanwhile, Häkkinen peerlessly moving ahead at the front.
And still, as they come down to Rivage again, Schumacher is coming up behind Jenson Button, but cannot, of course, get past the Williams at this point in the race. Now, it looks to me as though the circuit is going to start drying out. We'll get a dry line emerging at some point in the future. Meantime, David Coulthard is right up behind Michael Schumacher, and Mika Häkkinen, of course, is stretching away. And David Coulthard on this lap has gone through the first sector faster than anybody else. It's Button, Schumacher, Coulthard, Häkkinen still leading. Jarno Trulli second in the Jordan, and in 6th place, Ralf Schumacher. No change there.
I can't imagine this pressure for a 20-year-old like Button to have Michael Schumacher bearing down in a Scarlet Ferrari in the early stages of his first ever Belgian Grand Prix. But look, already at the dry line beginning to emerge as Häkkinen keeps moving ahead. Coulthard was quite slow in the middle section. He's dropped away now from the back of Michael Schumacher, but they're all very much line astern.
Now let's make this quite clear. As this circuit dries out, it's going to be critical when they come in for dry weather tyres, because if you stay out too long on wet weather tyres, they overheat, they start to chunk, they lose their tread, and therefore you lose grip. And it could be an inspired decision like the one that won Olivier Panis the Monaco Grand Prix in 1997 to change tyres that wins this race. But that is in the future. Meantime, there is Rubens Barrichello. He's gained 1 place in the Ferrari. He started 10th on the grid. He's got ahead of Johnny Herbert. Remember, Rubens Barrichello started 18th at Hockenheim for the German Grand Prix and came through to win it with an inspired drive. There is the race leader, Mika Häkkinen, going up to Les Combes on lap 3.
And Häkkinen already finding the need to go over on the wetter part of the racetrack to cool those wets. They were chunking this morning. They've got to somehow make them last into the first sensible pit stop window. I would have thought about lap 12, so that they can get through the race with only 2 fuel stops. So they need to conserve the tyres and already Häkkinen going over to find some puddles. But everybody does that, and quite quickly, even the offline parts of the racetrack become much drier.
So they're round the very difficult Pouhon as we look down from the helicopter onto the circuit at La Source. Häkkinen leading the yellow Jordan, then Jenson Button, then Michael Schumacher. Behind Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard, and then the Williams BMW, Ralf Schumacher.
Yeah, and there's Barrichello. The point of that replay, I think, is watching Barrichello passing Herbert. So that is a replay of the start, a very boring start, you have to say. And other than that move by Barrichello, very little has happened down the field as Häkkinen comes through Stavelot, heading down now towards Blanchimont.
Which is where the dry line is definitely emerging. The lighter part of the tarmac that you can see is the drier part. And you can see even now that there is spray coming up from the tyres. There's a lot of trees in that sector of the course. They release moisture and wetness onto the track for quite a long time. But Mika Häkkinen now is leading by 2.1 seconds at the end of the third lap. He's just made the fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 5.4 seconds.
And look at Button coming up the inside of Trulli. Jenson Button takes second place with a great outbraking manoeuvre. Can he find the traction? No, Trulli's taking it back again. Button having to run wide because of the speed he carried into La Source and lost that place.
But that shows what James Allen was saying earlier on about Button and Williams and BMW being determined to win this race if they can is certainly absolutely right. Jenson Button attacking right from the start, and this is only his 13th Grand Prix. He's going for it again, and Les Combes has a look round the inside of Trulli with Michael Schumacher still not making up ground. And meantime, of course, Mika Häkkinen is pulling away all the time. David Coulthard closing up on the Ferrari, and behind him Ralf Schumacher. It's second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth virtually together.
Yes, Häkkinen 1.5 seconds faster than anybody else on the last lap, and 2 seconds faster than most in the top 7 of the field. So Häkkinen really hooked up, found some grip, found some confidence. It's truly under pressure, and Jenson Button looking calm and still finding time to go over and cool those tyres a little bit. Look, virtually a dry line through Pouhon.
Yeah, and Button 0.4 of a second faster than Trulli on the previous lap. He's pushing all the time. Jarno Trulli is definitely holding up. Now, this is an enormous benefit for Mika Häkkinen, and the man who is really suffering at the moment is David Coulthard. Remember, he is third in the World Championship, only 6 points behind his teammate. And if David Coulthard can't get ahead of Häkkinen and win this race, or at least finish in front of the Finn, there's a danger that he may have to resort to team orders from Ron Dennis and the McLaren team in future.
Now, if Jenson can stay close through Blanchimont, he must have a great chance of going down the outside of Trulli. I'm sure he's going to, and outbrake him. No, he's positioned his car wrong. He's let Michael through. Bad mistake there from Jenson. He went the wrong way completely. He needed to go around the long way around the outside there. He really snookered himself on that move.
Michael Schumacher then is attacking up to third position. Jenson Button won't take that line down. He has another look. David Coulthard is still there. Behind David Coulthard is Ralf Schumacher, and Button attacks again. Hits Trulli, spins the car. Button keeps going and Coulthard gets through. David Coulthard has taken advantage of that spin there, and they go down to Eau Rouge together. This is fantastic. This is 180 mile an hour Grand Prix Formula 1 wheel-to-wheel racing.
Yeah, Ralf is through, so really 2 or 3 terrible corners there from Jenson, finally showing his inexperience. A clumsy move on Trulli. He came in too late. Trulli had already been surprised by Michael Schumacher. Jenson tried to capitalise on that, but there really was nothing else going to happen except Trulli turning in on him, and then managed not to make contact with Coulthard. Coulthard leapfrogged the pair of them, and then Ralf Schumacher making good on the move too.
Bitter goal for Jarno Trulli, who was doing so well and had qualified second, but now that's opened up things for Michael Schumacher. The crowd loves that. You can see the scarlet jackets waving, because Michael Schumacher now is second to Mika Häkkinen. Mika Häkkinen has put up the fastest lap of the race at just over 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Remember what I said earlier on, when the lap times come down to about 2 minutes, we can expect them to start coming in for dry weather tyres, but that's not yet a while. And Ralf Schumacher has a look at
David Coulthard now, and Ralf Schumacher is ahead of Jenson Button, unseen by us.
No. We covered that one, Murray. Ralf Schumacher cleared Jenson Button. They were side by side into Eau Rouge. Hopefully we'll see a replay of that. And Jenson quite sensibly yielding to his teammate. His teammate had the line. There was no point in them tangling in such a fast corner, and they live for another day. I'm not sure how Coulthard is going to handle Ralf Schumacher behind him. Coulthard appears to have a major problem in the middle sector of the race. He's 2 seconds slower than teammate Häkkinen. He's clearly got a balance problem on the car. They've been changing the car for the conditions, and Coulthard not at all hooked up in the middle part of the lap, and I think he's going to have those Williams keeping him close company for a while. Michael Schumacher, let's see what time he does. He's still 1.4 seconds slower as Michael Schumacher than Häkkinen up front. Häkkinen now with a 10.8 second lead.
Yeah, the McLaren engineers and Häkkinen together have done a superb job on getting the balance of the car right. They were working at it all through Friday in the 2 practice periods. Here is Zonta, Ricardo Zonta in the BAR going over the chicane there at the end of the lap. He won't suffer there, and lap 6 now, and here coming towards us is Michael Schumacher in second place.
Some cars coming in the pit lane, Murray. I think they're going to slicks already. Some cars, and I can see the Ferrari mechanics outside my window ready too. So some cars ready to go to slicks this early.
Yeah, in has come Nick Heidfeld, in has come Marc Genet, in has come Verstappen, and there is Heidfeld coming out. He's changed his tyres on the Prost from the wet weather tyres to the dry ones. So now Heidfeld is out on the track, so's Verstappen, so's Genet. They've lost time in the pits, but they could gain it. And look at Button in the background pushing his teammate Ralf Schumacher very hard indeed for 4th place.
Ferrari with slicks in the pit lane, Murray. So I would guess they'll be bringing in Michael Schumacher. He's probably calling, yes, bring me in for some tyres. So often here at Spa, you've got this drying situation. Coulthard's still under pressure from those 2 Williams.
Yeah, and it's working because fastest first sector now is Jean Alesi down in 17th position in the Prost, and he's been in and taken on dry weather tyres. This, as I expected, is going to transform the race. He's too far down to do much other than benefit him up to about 10th position, but if Schumacher comes in before Mika Häkkinen, we could see a change, although Häkkinen is now some 11 seconds ahead of the Ferrari.
And Häkkinen did not come in that time around. There's the Schumacher in then. So James is in the pit lane.
Well, Martin, there's been a huge amount of debate about this. First they were, then they weren't, there they were. It's an extraordinary gamble. He's still a few seconds a lap off the sort of pace you need to be on, but I think Michael is throwing the dice, trying to force McLaren into decision, and over his shoulder in comes his brother. He's obviously seen what Michael is doing, and Ralf is in too. So Jenson's still on wet. Nice stop from Ferrari, but, well, incredible gamble.
Yes, I think it's a smart move. You've got Alesi out there much faster than anybody else. Those that have stopped are faster. Even cars that are significantly slower than the leaders normally are already faster, James. I think McLaren have made a mistake by staying out this extra lap.
We'll soon know, because the fastest lap we've had so far as Frentzen exits the pit lane, followed by Rubens Barrichello. The fastest lap we've had so far in the opening laps in the semi-wet conditions was Mika Häkkinen, 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Now, if Schumacher, yes, Jean Alesi has just gone round in 2 minutes and 2 seconds. So that's 3 seconds faster in the Prost than Alesi in the McLaren. Schumacher could really benefit from this.
Yes, McLaren have made a mistake here. They should have had their 2 drivers in at least one of them now last time around, because this means that still one of the McLaren drivers has to do a further lap. They can't, but they're too close together on the track to come in. Now Coulthard is 17, actually might get away with it, 17 seconds behind leader Häkkinen at the moment. They may be able to pit both McLarens on the same lap. I think Coulthard's going to certainly lose some time if he follows teammate in, but they're a lap too late. McLaren have called it, I believe, slightly wrong.
Well, there is Mika Häkkinen well and truly in the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix over the dry tarmac, comparatively dry, into the pit lane. So Mika Häkkinen comes in now. Where is Michael Schumacher? Because Häkkinen had about a 17-second lead at least when he came in. But Michael Schumacher, meantime, is on the fastest lap of the race. He's gone through the first sector in just 55 seconds, and that is really flying.
But remember, Häkkinen had a 10.8-second lead before the pit stop started. So I would imagine he should come out in front of Michael Schumacher, but not by much. The lead will certainly be reduced.
Well, there's just been a flash past the commentary box. I missed which car it was. So there is Häkkinen turning on and rejoining the circuit, followed by his teammate David Coulthard. So Mika Häkkinen is still there. David Coulthard behind him in the pits now. You can see Jenson Button in the Williams, so there are going to be very few cars now left on wet weather tyres as Mika Salo just misses Jenson Button as the Englishman turns out of the pit lane. We're on lap 8 now out of 44.
Well, the loser here then is Coulthard. He's still on the wet tyres. He should have pitted a lap earlier. He should have called and then they would have given him an advantage rather than a disadvantage. He's now got to pit, so Häkkinen, it takes about 26 or 27 seconds to pit here because it's such a long sector on the 80-kilometre, 50 miles per hour speed limit, and Coulthard's tyres will be shot to pieces by now.
Yeah, and that's the second time in similar circumstances that David Coulthard will have suffered in comparison with Mika Häkkinen, but having a better call. We're on lap 8 now, the Belgian Grand Prix. Still a long, long way to go. But Mika Häkkinen, having made his pit stop, is leading the race. Jenson Button has stopped. Michael Schumacher has stopped. Eddie Irvine, who was up into 5th position, has stopped. Eddie Irvine in the Jaguar. But David Coulthard has not stopped and is therefore going to lose the second place that he has been holding. Meantime, as I said earlier on, Mika Häkkinen is maintaining his iron grip on the Belgian Grand Prix, coming up towards the bus stop again to complete his 8th lap. And Jorna Lacey, the man that came in and made that first tyre stop, has moved up from 17th to 8th position as a result of an inspired call. Rubens Barrichello, who started 10th in the Ferrari, is down in 11th position. And the top 6 at the present moment as Häkkinen goes through into his 9th lap. It's Häkkinen. Coulthard is coming into the pits now. Jenson Button will move up into 2nd position ahead of Michael Schumacher, and here they come.
No, Schumacher's in 2nd. James.
Yeah, how expensive is this going to be? Well, I reckon he's going to lose about 30 to 35 seconds. He could be about 11th at the end of all this. What was interesting was that Ferrari brought Barrichello in right behind Schumacher. Just after I finished talking about it, Rubens came straight in as well. Now, he's still in the hunt, albeit down in 11th. I think DC's lost a big chunk of time here again.
Well, he has indeed, because coming in has cost him dear. Mika Häkkinen is leading. Michael Schumacher is 2nd. The gap is 7 seconds, and it was a heck of a lot more than that earlier on. There's a long way to go in this race.
Yes, well, we saw Häkkinen going into Lecombe. We know that's the first sector of this lap, normally about 31 seconds, and Coulthard was just exiting the pits. So we know, as James predicted actually, Coulthard is now about a half a minute behind. Disaster for him.
Yeah, that puts him down into 11th or 12th position at the present moment, and David Coulthard desperately needed a win here today, as he had last year in Belgium, to keep his World Championship hopes alive. It's beginning to look more and more like, again, a Mika Häkkinen versus Michael Schumacher battle for the World Championship as we leave Spa for a very short time. It is lap 10 out of 44 in Belgium, and Michael Schumacher is starting marginally to cut into the lead of Mika Häkkinen. He's now, and here is Giancarlo Fisichella, followed by Jos Verstappen in the arrows, bouncing his way across the chicane, and there's some sort of a problem. He moves to one side, and Jos Verstappen goes through and gains the place. He's up into 16th position.
Yes, Fisichella's car there, engine dying on him, and that's put the safety car on standby while we're in a break, but I do not believe they'll have to use it. I think they've managed to clear Fisichella's car out of the way, and the race will continue.
Michael Schumacher, fastest lap of the race. Down comes the gap to Mika Häkkinen, which was some 10 seconds, now is 5.1 seconds. Michael Schumacher has got the bit between his teeth. He knows that he needs desperately to win this race. He's 2 points behind Mika Häkkinen in the World Championship chase, with just 4 races to go after this one. And if he can win this race, he'll be 2 points ahead at the end of it.
Coulthard ended up in 9th place now after that disastrous moment when he chose not to come in as early as possible for slicks, and then had to go 1 extra lap while Häkkinen was in for his stop. I think they could have pitted the 2 McLarens together, but it does take time to get the other tyres out, get the other fuel rig ready, but nonetheless it's cost Coulthard a lot of time. He's down in 9th place. So Häkkinen, Michael Schumacher, Ralf Schumacher in 3rd, John Alesi, the first man to go on to slicks, is in 4th, Jenson Button 5th, Jack Villeneuve 6th, Barrichello 7th, Frentzen 8th, Coulthard 9th, Pedro Denit, who has not stopped yet, in 10th place.
And if Michael Schumacher there can't catch Häkkinen, no one else can. This is the man you are watching who won here in 1992, only his 2nd year in Formula 1, and then he was driving a Benetton. He won again in 94, only to be excluded because of a faulty plank underneath the car. He won in 95 for Benetton. He won in 96 for Ferrari and 1997 for Ferrari. And Louis Goodman has news for us.
I'm standing here with Jarno Trulli. Jarno, I guess Jenson Button's not your best friend at the moment.
Well, I'm disappointed. I know it can happen. Unfortunately, it happened between me and him, 2 young drivers. I think it was just a misunderstanding, especially it thought that was enough room to overtake, but in fact there was not, and it just hit me on the back and the spawn, and the engine stalled. I was struggling because my tires went, especially my rear tires, because track was drying up and I was on high fuel level.
Thanks, Jarno. Bad luck.
Well, that's magnanimous of Jarno Trulli, and David Coulthard is pushing now. He's in 9th place behind. There he is in the background as we look at Jean Alesi revelling in the conditions and in a Prost which is actually going well for once. He's in 4th position as Fisichella walks in, having talked to Louise. Mika Häkkinen now is only 4.9 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher.
So Schumacher then, a new fastest lap of a 1:56.1. He's now brought the gap down to 4.9 seconds, and Ralph holding station there in 3rd. So Alesi's early move, early gamble, he really had nothing to lose, did he, running so far down the field. He went to slicks at least a lap earlier than anybody else, and 2 and 3 laps earlier than some of the others, and it paid off immediately. In fact, he would be the trigger for most of those early pit stops. They would have seen immediately his first section time on the wets, of these slicks rather, was already much quicker than anybody else, and that triggered all of the rest of the stops that we've seen.
The most experienced man in Grand Prix racing. This is his 180th Grand Prix. There is the gap between Mika Häkkinen and Michael Schumacher, which is continuing to be marginally reduced lap by lap. It's down to 4.6 seconds. Michael Schumacher has gone fastest again, 1:55.2. The fastest lap last year was 1:54, as near as makes no difference to the nearest 10th of a second. The circuit is still damp in parts. They're staying on the dry bits, and it's Williams BMWs in 3rd and 5th places. And if Jean Alesi can get some points for Prost by staying in the race and staying in the points, it will break their duck. They've gone all this season without scoring a single point, and they richly deserve one after all the travail they've had.
So sit back, you're watching a great duel now between 2 double world champions. They're in a league of their own. They're 1.5 to 2 seconds faster than anybody else on the racetrack. They're trading fastest times. Mika Häkkinen come through with a new fastest lap. Michael Schumacher, just 4 odd seconds down the road, beats that straight away, and Häkkinen sets off then on yet another fastest lap. They're really just head to head now.
And if Alesi can keep up the pace, he's going to catch Ralf Schumacher for 3rd place before very much longer. He is lapping some 0.8 of a second. There's Fisichella. It was Jarno Trulli, of course, that Louise Goodman was talking to, and Alesi is lapping some 0.8 of a second faster than Ralf Schumacher, 3rd position, and out.
Hakkinen.
That's Hakkinen, Mika Hakkinen running off the circuit. What has happened? Has it cost him the lead? As the camera cut to the McLaren.
He spun in Stabilo. He spun on his way through Stabilo. He appears to be picking up speed. I think he's just swapped ends on the way into Stabilo. We'll no doubt see a replay. Or did he just pull off the track?
Well, whatever, he was only leading by 4.6 seconds, and we're going to get the answer now.
Shuey's through. Shuey's easily gone through.
Michael Schumacher leads the Belgian Grand Prix. Oh, there he is, and there in the background is Mika Hakkinen. This is a terrific development. Mika Hakkinen was some 4 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher. Whatever happened to him, the spin at Stabilo has cost him dearly. It's cost him the lead.
Yes, it was a spin. Car 1 spun and continued at turn 15. That's Stabilo. So Hakkinen, I hope we see a replay as Heidfeld out of the race. I hope we see a replay. I suspect Hakkinen's just caught a white line somewhere, and the cars swapped ends on him. Now he is the pursuer, and Michael Schumacher has a lead of 5.6 seconds to defend.
On lap 14 out of 44, so 1/3 of the race completed. 5 times Belgian Grand Prix winner Michael Schumacher for Ferrari can regain the lead in the World Championship if he can stay where he is, but 2/3 of the race still to go. Ralf Schumacher is now pulling away from Jean Alesi and starting to close on Hakkinen. Of course, now here, have a look at this as we look down on the Ferrari, waiting for the replay to start and rejoin the race, and there is Michael Schumacher. Jenson Button is still there, secure ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, who's again in the points for BAR, and Rubens Barrichello is moving through the field, not as quickly and dramatically as he did in Germany, but he's now up from 10th to 7th. He's 1 place off World Championship points behind Jacques Villeneuve, and he's lapping faster than the BAR. He is 4/10 of a second behind him. There's a colossal battle between the 1997 world champion for Williams, Jacques Villeneuve, and Rubens Barrichello as race leader Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari exits the bus stop and completes his 14th lap. Now 30 laps to go. Where is Mika Hakkinen? Look back, the gap was just about 4, it's now 6.1 seconds. Michael Schumacher has lapped half a second faster.
We're just going to see a replay here. This is Hakkinen having quite a small spin. I think they've been struggling to find it, the Belgian TV crew here. They just caught the end of it. I think he almost certainly caught a white line on the way in, and it was a half a spin, effectively, but it cost him the lead of this Grand Prix. We'll be back shortly.
Lap 16, and this is the battle in the race. As you look at Jacques Villeneuve in 6th position, being challenged by Rubens Barrichello. Behind Barrichello is Frentzen, only just behind him, and David Coulthard, who suffered from that very late pit stop, is down in 9th position. And Louise Goodman has got Giancarlo Fisichella with her.
Giancarlo, reliability let you down yesterday and it's let you down again today.
Yeah, we had a problem, maybe electrical problem, we don't know, we need to check it. I was driving very careful at the beginning of the race. There was possibility to do a good race, but nothing to do.
What are the conditions like out there?
Now it's okay for dry tires. At the beginning it was wet, but after a few laps there was the circuit getting dry, and with the rain tires it was quite difficult. Okay.
Well, there are places to pass at Spa, but Rubens Barrichello is not finding one to get past Jacques Villeneuve and get that 1.46 position in the Drivers' Championship. Just 3 retirements so far. Jarno Trulli, Fisichella we've just heard from, and Nick Heidfeld in the Prost.
A new fastest lap for Michael Schumacher, 55.0. That lap it was 56.0 for Hakkinen. The lead now up to 7.6 seconds. You're watching Barrichello still chasing Villeneuve, and just behind them Frentzen trying to hold off Coulthard. And the rest of the pack, with the exception of Jean Alesi in 4th place, who's driving brilliantly. Now he's got his slicks on and just beginning to catch up Ralf Schumacher. Should be a good scrap there later on. Slow-mo replay of Jenson Button. I think this is just one of those moody things the director here likes to do to show you the wheel movement and the aggression of some of those slow corners. And Barrichello there dropping back a little bit from Villeneuve.
Lap 17, it's fairly static in terms of gaps at the present moment. Michael Schumacher in the lead is easing away from Mika Häkkinen. Ralf Schumacher is steady in third position. Jean Alesi is steady in that determined and well-deserved fourth place as a result of that inspired tyre call. Jenson Button is 10.1 seconds behind Alesi in fifth position. But Jacques Villeneuve, the battle between Jacques Villeneuve and Rubens Barrichello, who are forcing each other on, is enabling them to close on Jenson Button in fifth place. James Allen?
Murray, the $10 million question now is when will they have to stop again? Because of the very early stops for tyres, people only put a very little bit of fuel in. They didn't want to lose too much time and places. But I reckon the front runners started this race with enough fuel to go through to about lap 20 to 21. So with that extra fuel, you've got to figure they're going to come in around about the late 20s. But there is the possibility that people have got different fuel loads on board now, and that could well be decisive in about 10-15 laps time.
And this, of course, is emphasising what a team sport Formula One is.
54.5 now for Michael Schumacher in the lead. He's just finding more and more grip, and a 55.7 for Häkkinen. So pulling that lead out a further 1.2 seconds up to 8.8. Michael now just waltzing off into the distance, and Ralf Schumacher second fastest lap that time around in third place.
Yeah, Ralf Schumacher, who has finished second for Jordan here in Belgium. To go back to the point I was making as you watch Michael Schumacher about it being a team race, the team managements will now be plotting the fuel loads that their drivers need to come in for when they stop, and it's going to be just as critical and crucial that they get it right as it was that they call the tyre stops correctly. And Michael Schumacher, now the master of Spa and the rain master, as I was talking on earlier on, is continuing to pull away.
Watch Michael, Murray. He's going onto the wet parts of the track, although he's on dry tyres. He's going, whenever he gets a reasonable chance, across the road to try and cool those slicks down. They're very soft here. They've all gone for the softer type of race tyre. I imagine the cars are running quite a lot of fuel because they stopped so early in the race, and Michael feeling the need just to cool those tyres down. Very, very unusual to see a driver on slick tyres going over onto the damp parts of the circuit. But it's paying off. He's on yet another blistering lap.
Yeah, his 139th Grand Prix. This is experience. He scored more World Championship points than any other current driver. 634 points at the present moment, second only to the great Alain Prost, who'd scored nearly 800 when he retired. And Michael Schumacher continues now, exits the lap. This is the end of his 18th lap. The gap of 8.8 seconds over Mika Häkkinen is sure to have been increased as a result of that fastest lap that he has just had. In fact, it's increased by over a full second. It's nearly 10 seconds now.
And Häkkinen's picked his pace up, but Michael on a 54.2. Let's see if he feels the need again down the straight this time to wander over to the right-hand side. Yes, he does, look, and that's paying off. That's gained Michael Schumacher 4 or 5 seconds on his lead. He's so smart, he's thinking all the time. He needs less of his capacity to drive the car, leaves plenty spare to think what's going on around him and how he can maximise everything that's available to him. And I'm sure the McLaren team must be on the radio to Häkkinen to tell him to do the same thing.
There's that stop that James Allen was talking about. Jean Alesi comes in from fourth position for his fuel stop as opposed to the tyre stop which he made earlier on in the race. Now, he may have lost the place to Jenson Button. I can't tell you at the moment because we're watching the McLaren, as is Ron Dennis, the McLaren team boss there. The McLaren of Mika Häkkinen in second place in Belgium. And Häkkinen has already had 5 second places this year, but he needs a victory here, just as Michael Schumacher does, to do something about the World Championship and riveting it for one or other of them. Schumacher, lap 19, Häkkinen, lap 19, gap nearly 10 seconds. Ralf Schumacher is holding pace very well indeed in the Williams BMW. He's only losing about 0.3 of a second a lap. He's under 19 seconds behind his brother, who is in the lead.
Yes, if you look at the form book of the last 10 Grand Prix, so that's 20 starts, for the McLaren team. They've had 20 finishes. Michael, of course, had a string of non-finishes, mostly down to accidents, it has to be said, rather than mechanical problems, although the engine did fail on him at the French Grand Prix. So you'd have to say that McLaren have the upper hand in the reliability stakes, but right now Michael easily has the upper hand in speed, although Mika Häkkinen now having to respond to that extra push from Michael Schumacher, but still losing a further 0.3 of a second last time around.
Jenson Button pushing to try to get that position from Jean Alesi out of the bus stop. Is he going to be coming in on this lap? No, indeed he is not. The Prost is the only car that's come in for its first fuel stop as opposed to tyre stop so far. Jenson Button exits last source, very tight indeed compared to a lot of the drivers. And here is Michael Schumacher bumping his way across the chicane at the bus stop. And hello, this is Eddie Irvine and Mika Salo battling for 12th position. Irvine in the Jaguar, Salo getting through on the inside. Is he to take that 12th position? His car's been beautifully set up for the race. He was 6th fastest in the warm-up this morning. And here again are Jacques Villeneuve and Rubens Barrichello, still now battling, but now for 5th place. It was 6th position, and the race order at the present moment: Schumacher, Häkkinen, Ralf Schumacher 3rd, Jenson Button is 4th, but as a result of that stop by Jean Alesi, which has dropped into 10th position, Jacques Villeneuve is 5th. You're looking at Rubens Barrichello, who is 6th. Frentzen is 7th, ahead of David Coulthard 8th, 9th and 10th Deniz and Alesi. But Alesi should come up again now, having made his fuel stop, when the others have to start coming in.
So Deniz has not stopped at all. He was the only driver brave enough to start the race on slicks. That's why he fell to the back of the field early on, but he got the benefit later on. So Deniz up into 9th place in the Sauber, not having stopped for tyres or fuel at this point of the race.
And he is lapping about 2 seconds a lap slower than the flying Michael Schumacher in the lead in Belgium on lap 21, coming up to half distance, which is lap 22, as the bus stop they're coming up to, they being Villeneuve and Barrichello. And just imagine the G-forces of the tyre loadings there.
Yes, it's very difficult to follow somebody through Blanchimont 195. And Barrichello taking a pit stop. Barrichello clearly thinks his best way past Villeneuve is to come in early and find some clear air. But to follow somebody else through Blanchimont, the problem is you can't see the track. You're turning in at 190 miles an hour, and you've really got to have a bit of blind faith and follow the other driver, and you cannot pick up your reference points. But Barrichello found his reference points at his pit stop, and it appears to all be going well. The refueling rig is off already, and a great stop there by Ferrari. That could just launch Barrichello past Villeneuve when he has to stop, but Barrichello needs to maximise this outlap now. Hope he doesn't get too much traffic. Looks like he's already got a Jaguar in front of him. Now Barrichello must absolutely nail it from the first corner.
Yeah, well, he knows the score. 4th in the World Championship. He's got a victory behind him. You probably noticed those copper earthing strips being flattened by the car when he came in to get rid of any static on the Ferrari safely. So Rubens Barrichello on what is an increasingly dry track now. The fastest lap we've had so far, Michael Schumacher on lap 18, 1 minute 54.2, and that is about 0.3 of a second slower than Mika Häkkinen's fastest lap last year, when the conditions, of course, were very much better. And the gap between Schumacher and Häkkinen is now 10 seconds as you watch David Coulthard battling Heinz-Harald Frenzen's Jordan for the last World Championship point at the moment, 6th place.
Yes, Coulthard needs to clear Frentzen. He's lapping some 1.5 seconds slower than Häkkinen, and we know the pair of them have got similar pace around this racetrack, so Coulthard can't get anywhere in the turbulent air following the Jordan. If he's going to have any chance of some sensible points today, he needs to clear this Jordan very quickly. His World Championship chances are beginning to slip away this afternoon. This is a bad afternoon for David Coulthard in the year 2000.
Yeah, you have to say, Martin, he's had some pretty rough luck this season one way and another. He lost those 6 World Championship points in Brazil for a car irregularity, which was no fault of his after he'd finished 2nd.
Yes, but I'll be wondering why he didn't demand to come in earlier for slick tyres. It looked like it was ready for slicks. If I can see it up here, I'm sure they can feel it and see it down there. It looked like slicks. He should have called, should have demanded, unless he was told he couldn't come in, of course.
Well, Pedro Diniz has finally made that stop from 9th position. The last man to make his first stop comes in from 9th place in the Sauber. Incidentally, there's a strong rumour going round here that Johnny Herbert, who we thought was going to race in America next year, is in fact again going to rejoin the Sauber team next season. I emphasise, as ever, it's a rumour.
I think that's got to the bottom of that a little bit. That's a bit, somebody having a laugh, starting a rumour. I think it came not very far away from Johnny, actually, seeing how fast it would come back to you and how far round it would go on its way.
Gone to a lot of people now, then.
Hasn't ever. About 40 million. Schumacher in the
Schumacher in. James.
A little bit earlier than we expected, but that's because we've been doing a bit of research. We found the fuel nozzle when he came in first time round was only on for 2 seconds, which was only 24 kilos of fuel. So in comes Michael Schumacher. Now the target here is to get back out again ahead of Jenson Button. That's what Ferrari are trying to do, and certainly ahead of Jacques Villeneuve. A quick word also on Rubens Barrichello's stop. That was a switch, guys. He's now on a 3-stop strategy. Keep an eye out for him.
Right, well, the seconds are ticking and 11.1 of them go as Michael Schumacher exits the pit lane. He was leading Mika Häkkinen by 5 seconds, just over 5 seconds when he came in. Now, where is Jenson Button? Well, there is Ralf Schumacher. So it looks as though the Ferrari objective has been achieved. The gap between Ralf Schumacher, who's 3rd, and Jenson Button, who's 4th, was 17 seconds. And now the Ferrari is sandwiched between the 2 Williams, and Michael Schumacher has made his stop.
Now, Häkkinen's been told to push. He's just done the fastest first section of any lap this afternoon by some margin indeed. So Häkkinen, the team will have been on the radio. You must maximise these next few laps because Schumacher stopped very early, as James pointed out. I would have thought there's just enough fuel gone in that car. James will be calculating it anyway to get him to the end of the Grand Prix. Häkkinen now on a push. We're going to take a quick break. Be back very shortly.
Lap 24, 20 laps to go in Belgium. You're looking at Ralf Schumacher, who is currently in 2nd position in the Williams BMW behind Mika Häkkinen as a result of his brother Michael having made that early stop in the Ferrari from the lead. Michael Schumacher is in 3rd place ahead of Jenson Button, who has only stopped once in the Williams BMW. He's in 4th place. The 2 Williams BMWs are 2nd and 4th at the moment. That's the best they have been this season. Jacques Villeneuve is 5th, pursued by Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and David Coulthard, who has only stopped once, is down in 7th place ahead of Jean Alesi, who has stopped twice. There's still going to be changes in this Belgian Grand Prix as you look now at the Jordan and the McLaren turning into the bus stop, accelerating along that little short straight, out again to complete the lap. Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Jordan is 6th, David Coulthard behind him, 7th position.
Villeneuve in the pits. Coulthard needs to clear that Jordan, otherwise his afternoon's wreck. This is Villeneuve, 50 miles an hour limit. He's at the far end of the pit lane. BAR right down at the end. At least he's got an easy escape route then, straight out onto the racetrack. Well, there's a 180-degree right-hander immediately after he gets underway, and right out onto the racetrack. So Villeneuve was beginning to catch Jenson Button, but by nowhere near enough speed, and still Coulthard can do nothing about Frentzen's Jordan.
And he's seen a lot at very close quarters of the car in front of him at various races this year. Down out of the top 6. Well, he's in it at the present moment. He is in 6th position on a potential 1 World Championship point. But Jacques Villeneuve has been in now, and that's as a result of the BAR coming into the pits that Coulthard has improved his position. And Frentzen bumps over the sore teeth of the chicane there. And we're on lap 25 now, out of 44. And I've got a feeling that there is still a lot of drama left in this race.
So Häkkinen is 14.2 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher at this stage of the race. We think Schumacher's fueled to the end of the race, so Häkkinen needs to be significantly further down the road. Ralf Schumacher's pitting on this lap, I'm just seeing on the computer. So Ralf in, that'll put Michael back up to 2nd place. And if Michael can peg Häkkinen's pace in this sector of the race, he's certainly going to end up in the lead later on.
Yeah, their comparative lap times at the moment, as you look at Ralf Schumacher, not M. Schumacher in the Ferrari. Thank you, change the caption. Ralf Schumacher exits the pit lane. Watch the fuel flap goes down when there it goes. And here is the man who was leading the race when he came in for his pit stop, Michael Schumacher. He's in second position at the present moment, and Mika Häkkinen staying out. This is the 26th lap. The fact that they had to come in early to change from wet weather tyres to dry weather tyres and take on a bit of fuel at the same time has changed strategies dramatically. That when we were expecting people to come in is not necessarily when they are going to be coming in.
Michael Schumacher, we saw down the main back straight up towards Les Combes, really on the far right-hand side of the circuit, trying to cool his slicks. Once again, he's got quite a heavy fuel load in that car now. The risk out there is he could pick up a puncture. You get a lot of debris and rubbish out there. It won't affect his grip into the next corner. He's moving back early enough to clean the tyres back up, but you do put a lot of extra risk into getting a puncture from little pieces of carbon fibre or whatever, remembering, of course, that much of that part of the racetrack is a normal main road the rest of the year round.
Looking at the Constructors' World Championship at the present moment, with David Coulthard still to make his second stop, both the McLarens are well and truly in the points, and in the Constructors' Championship there is only 1 point between McLaren, who is leading, and Ferrari, who is second. But at the present moment, only one of the Ferraris, the one that you're looking at, Michael Schumacher, is in the points, because Rubens Barrichello is still down out of the points in 8th position.
Michael losing about 0.3 of a second per lap to Mika now. That's because he took on about 10 seconds worth of fuel. We saw it for ourselves. So Michael now with quite a heavy car. Every 10 kilos of fuel around here costs you half a second per lap in time, as Jenson Button comes in for his second stop of the afternoon from third position. He will now fall back behind teammate Ralf Schumacher and resume, I would imagine, in fourth. A reasonable stop again there for Jenson, and hopefully he won't have too much traffic when he moves onto the racetrack. Nothing coming down the pit straight. I think Jenson, and who was that?
Well, it's a Ferrari going through there in the background, but now we're looking again at this continued battle all the way around the circuit between Frentzen and Coulthard, 5th and 6th, Jordan and McLaren. Now the Mugen Honda engine of the Jordan, which is going to have a full works Honda engine next year, has not had all that much development this year, so Frentzen is doing extremely well to stay ahead of the very powerful Mercedes-Benz powered McLaren of David Coulthard.
Yes, and that's Jenson at the moment we think is down in 8th place actually, because the other runners haven't stopped yet, and that was Barrichello ahead of him, who has stopped twice. So Barrichello's had quite a run since he made that early stop for his second set of tyres, and I think, and Häkkinen is in the pits too, I can see. Mika Häkkinen from the lead of the race into the pit lane. It's not on our screens yet. I'm sure they'll pick it up as soon as they move away from this scrap between Frentzen, and there you see it, Häkkinen coming in for his second stop.
Following the arrows in now, the gap was 14.6 seconds. Michael Schumacher is sure to be taking the lead unless he encounters a problem, and out. That's a very good stop. 8.8 seconds for Mika Häkkinen now. I'm looking for the flash. There's the car going past. I just saw the top of it over the pit wall. Where is the Ferrari?
Now he's leading.
That's one of the arrows that's gone through. So where is Michael Schumacher? Well, there is Mika Häkkinen coming down to Eau Rouge.
I saw the top of Schumacher's car.
Yeah, there he is.
Yes, there he is. Going underneath the wall there, but it was difficult to pick up how far he'd got before Häkkinen, in a different shot, came out of the pit lane. And as we thought, Michael Schumacher, who was 14.6 seconds behind before Häkkinen stopped, takes much longer than 14.6 seconds because of the long pit lane and the slow speed limit. And now Michael Schumacher picks up the lead once again, and we think he's fueled to the end.
And he's coming up behind Alexander Wurz's blue Benetton, which he goes through on the inside to lap, and Mazzucane's yellow Minardi with the red wishbones. He's going to lap the Argentine driver now. So he's lapped Verstappen, he's lapped Wurz, he's lapped Mazzacane. The next target will be Marc Genet in the second Minardi. And the top 10 on lap 28 out of 44 are now Michael Schumacher, Mika Häkkinen, Ralf Schumacher, Hans-Harald Frentzen. 5th is Coulthard, 6th is Alesi. Alesi is back in the points. Keep your fingers crossed for Alesi and Prost, they deserve it. Rubens Barrichello is 7th, Button is 8th, but will move up. Johnny Herbert in the Jaguar is 9th, Jacques Villeneuve is 10th in the BAR.
So that was the crucial section of the race there for Michael Schumacher. While he had the much heavier fuel load I was explaining to you, he was still able to match Mika Häkkinen's times. Häkkinen could not stretch that lead with low fuel to be more than a pit stop ahead of Michael, and that really could well have cost Mika the race. Michael, a crucial stage of the race, and he made it work.
Well, if Michael Schumacher wins this race, and I'm certainly not going to say he is going to win it, it'll be his 6th victory of the year. He's been trying so hard ever since he joined Ferrari in '96. And in come Frentzen and Coulthard together.
Yes, so obviously McLaren called Coulthard in, and Jordan have very sensibly responded immediately to that. These two running line astern, and David Coulthard will be absolutely destroyed to see Frentzen coming in the pit lane ahead of him. Can they turn him around quicker than the Jordan? It's a reasonable stop, but yes, I think he's going to pass him. Yeah, lucky there for Coulthard. The McLaren boys turned him around quicker than the Jordan boys, got Frentzen away, and that's a crucial thing, a crucial move there for Coulthard. And now he needs to keep Johnny Herbert's Jaguar behind him as he builds up tyre temperature and speed into Eau Rouge.
So, watch for the Jaguar. There it is. Yep. And he has succeeded in doing so, and a classic indication of how you can change positions with a good pit stop. That's exactly what happened. David Coulthard had been sitting behind Heinz-Harald Frentzen's Jordan gearbox for lap after lap after lap, not able to do anything about getting past, because disturbed aerodynamics and all the other problems that you have of following a car closely in front. But now he is ahead.
Yes, and Frentzen's also ahead of Villeneuve, so Villeneuve's lost out quite badly. We didn't see, his stop seemed okay, actually we did see it. Remember, he was right at the end of the pit lane, but for whatever reason, Villeneuve's had a bad run since that pit stop and fallen down the field. So Coulthard now showing, well, the computer hasn't sorted itself out yet from those pit stops.
No, so I'm just going to wait until it does so. So easy to get it wrong when the positions are changing and we're waiting for things to be updated. However, no doubt at all about the fact that on the 2/3 distance lap, lap 30 out of 44, Michael Schumacher's Ferrari, which you are looking at now, is leading Mika Häkkinen's McLaren by some 5 seconds.
There's Michael over on the what little bit of damp track is left now, and significantly on the last lap, Häkkinen took 0.8 of a second out of Michael Schumacher's lead. Rubens Barrichello sets a new fastest lap of the race on a 54.0. We'll be back shortly.
Is driving an inspired race. He's got the gap between himself and Michael Schumacher down to under 4 seconds. Now, very often when you change from one set of tyres to another, things can get better or things can get worse. That could have happened both to Michael Schumacher and to Mika Häkkinen the wrong way as far as Schumacher is concerned. They could have got worse for him and better for Häkkinen. But whatever the reason, the gap is coming down, and Rubens Barrichello in the second Ferrari is now in 4th place, catching Ralf Schumacher, who is 3rd. Alesi is 5th and Jenson Button is 6th.
Yes, remember we think that Barrichello's on a 3-stop strategy, therefore he will have the faster car, but 1:53.8 for a new fastest lap for Barrichello. And now Häkkinen is now down to 3 0.1 seconds, an inspired section of the race. Remember, he was leading early on. He spun off at Stavelot, lost the lead, seemed to be a bit cautious. Michael Schumacher clearly had a lot more pace, but on this set of tyres, as you say, Marion, at this stage of the race, it's Hakkinen now. Look at the total commitment he had coming over the top of Radeon as he pursues Michael Schumacher. Now it's flip-flopped the other way, and he's become the pursuer yet again.
It's a moot point. Some people will say that Michael Schumacher is very much the best driver of these days. Others will say Mika Häkkinen, and there's no doubt at all about the fact that they are the two best drivers, closely pursued by David Coulthard, and here they are in the front. And we've got news from Louise Goodman.
Yeah, I was standing in the Jordan garage watching that pit stop. They're absolutely distraught about what went on. They were so sharp to react to McLaren coming in, straight on the case. There was a slight problem with one of the rear wheels, but in fact that was all sorted out by the time that the fuel man had come off. The main problem was that Heinz-Harald Frentzen overshot his mark. That lost vital time, and it's also lost him a position in the race.
Yeah, that does. When the mechanics have to move up and the heavy fuel rig has to be adjusted, the hose, which is extremely heavy and supported by two men, has to be lumbered up so that they can line it up with the fuel filler, and it does cost time. But now you're watching what's going to be a classic confrontation between the two top men with about 12 laps still to go. That's about 46-50 miles still to go, and Mika Häkkinen is eating into Michael Schumacher's lead. I've said this many times before, I'll say it again. Catching is one thing, passing is another. But my goodness, catching is certainly what Mika Häkkinen is doing. On the previous lap, the gap, lap 31, was 3.1 seconds. Over the line goes Michael Schumacher. Over the line goes Mika Häkkinen. Down comes the gap by half a second to 2.4 seconds.
Yes, so Häkkinen got a good car underneath him. So is Coulthard now finally finding some pace back there in 6th place. So Coulthard, having cleared the Jordan, now can find some pace. He's about 4 seconds behind Jenson Button as they're scrapping over. They will be scrapping over 5th place. Barrichello in 4th, we think, has got to stop again. Michael Schumacher first, Häkkinen 2nd, Ralf Schumacher 3rd. I don't believe either of those three will have to stop as Eddie Irvine passes there, and De La Rosa, and looks like De La Rosa has some kind of problem.
Yeah. Eddie Irvine is in 13th position, his teammate. Here are the top 10. Michael Schumacher, lap 32, leads Mika Häkkinen by the gap you can see. It's about 2.5 seconds. Ralf Schumacher is 22 seconds behind the leader. Rubens Barrichello is 27 seconds behind the leader, but has got to stop again. Jenson Button is 12 seconds behind Barrichello, so could regain that 4th position. He started 3rd on the grid. In 6th position is David Coulthard, ahead of Frentzen, who is 7th. Jacques Villeneuve in 8th place. 9th is Alesi. 10th is Salo. And it rather looks at the present moment as though Jean Alesi is not going to achieve those much desired first ever points for the Prost team this season. Look at Mika Häkkinen, really hammering it, really giving the McLaren a hard time. And he can see his quarry, Michael Schumacher, as they come round the tremendously fast corner at Blanchimont at some 190 miles an hour, break down for the bus stop, which they take at an approach speed of about 80 miles an hour, and out of it now. The gaps come down from 3.1 to 2.4. Over the line they go, and this time it's 2.2, 0.2 of a second gained by Mika Häkkinen. They exit La Source. They drop down towards Eau Rouge. Through that daunting series of bends, the swinging uphill section, and then bare left at Radeon up towards Les Combes. The battle is on.
Barrichello out of the race, for the looks of it. Barrichello with some kind of problem, coasting now into the pit lane. He may just be able to freewheel all the way down to his pit.
Bad news for Ferrari, good news for Williams and BMW and Jenson Button, because definitely up into 4th place goes Jenson Button, to 5th goes David Coulthard, to 6th goes Heinz-Harald Frentzen, hopefully to get a point for Jordan, and Rubens Barrichello draws to a standstill, very definitely out of the race, his 3rd retirement of the year.
Yes, and he's this side, he's the track side of the white line that crosses the circuit, so the mechanics cannot go to that car. He needs the marshals to push him into the zone, past the white line that crosses the beginning of the pit lane. He's saying, push me, push me. There's his mechanics ready for him, look. But the mechanics cannot touch that car. outside of the white line, they will be in serious problems, in my understanding of the rules. James?
Jim, I think he possibly might have run out of fuel, you know, because he did push it very, very hard. There was quite an interesting run. They're certainly all ready for him. He's reported no particular problems with the car as far as I can tell. And that's the dilemma for Ferrari. They want the marshals to bring the car in, but who knows?
And sadly, Jean Alesi is out of the race in the Prost. He was fourth at one time. His teammate Nick Heidfeld has already retired long ago, one of the earliest retirements. And yet again, poor Jean is out of the race. Yet again, no points for Prost. Lap 34.
They'll have to retire that car, is my understanding of the rules. And where they're standing with Jean Alesi's car, I wouldn't stand there for all the tea in China. Thank you very much. They've got to clear that car out of the way. The cars are coming in there at 200 miles an hour, and it's absolutely in the line of fire if there's any kind of problems. And this is the scrap of the race now. Our two Brits, Coulthard 2.3 seconds behind Jenson Button, lapping about 1.2 faster per lap, and Hakkinen now down to just 1.6 behind Schumacher, who still feels the need to cool the tyres on that Ferrari. And Hakkinen will take a lot of pleasure out of that because he's faster and he clearly doesn't need to do the same thing.
And it's my estimation that if things stay as they are, and I don't think they are going to stay as they are, McLaren and Ferrari will be tying for the lead in the Constructors' Championship at the end of this race. And that is 10 laps away. This is lap 35 out of 44, and you're watching Rubens Barrichello sitting gloomily in the Ferrari while they try to bring it back to life.
Yeah, they've got to build some fuel pressure. If indeed it was out of fuel, they've got to. I think they have to retire that car anyway. It's getting out. I do not believe they can recover it from beyond the white line and then restart the race. So Barrichello quite clearly retiring, and I think they had to do that anyway. Hakkinen has done the fastest first section of anybody in the race so far, taking 0.4 of a second out of Michael Schumacher in the first 30 seconds of this very lap that you're watching now. What has Michael Schumacher done in the middle? He's taken half a second back again.
Yeah, and remember, Hakkinen is leading the World Championship by 2 points from Michael Schumacher. 10 points for victory, 6 points for second place. If Hakkinen can get ahead of Michael Schumacher, it's going to be a mighty bonus for him in this year's World Championship. Nobody has won the Drivers' World Championship 3 years in succession since the great Juan Manuel Fangio did so driving a Maserati in 1957. Mika Hakkinen won in 99, he won in 98, he's leading in the year 2000. This is a terrific scrap, and Jean Alesi walking in. Ralf Schumacher still holds on. We haven't seen much of Ralf Schumacher in the Williams BMW, but he's still there, and he's 25 seconds behind Michael Schumacher as this battle develops, and we go to a break. Seven laps to go, and look at this. Mika Hakkinen is maintaining the pressure. He has caught Michael Schumacher.
Yes, and just down the road, Coulthard had a little go at getting past Button into La Source. There's 2.10s in it. Coulthard trying down the outside. His car has been much stronger under braking, and Coulthard takes that position. So up into fourth place for Coulthard. Button down to fifth. We've been watching the scrap through the last 5-6 laps, and David Coulthard had a much better kind of braking. I think Button's rear tyres are going away too, struggling to get the power down, but the two leaders now really just about slugging it out and keeping that gap to 1 second.
7 laps to go, 7 laps of 4.3 miles. And this is going to decide whether Mika Hakkinen extends his lead in the World Championship or Michael Schumacher retakes the lead in the World Championship that he had right up to and including the German Grand Prix, which was race 11 out of 17 this year. An absolutely magnificent scrap. Ralf Schumacher, unseen by us for quite a long time, has been in third position for lap after lap after lap in the Williams BMW and is continuing to maintain it. He was third in Australia, the first race of the year. It looks as though Williams and BMW are going to have another podium.
Well, Ferrari have confirmed that Barrichello ran out of fuel as Michael's still cooling his tyres at this stage of the race. He's giving a lot away there to Hakkinen, showing him that, and then having to come back online and brake very late into Lecumbe. It's 205 miles an hour down to about 65 or 70 miles an hour through there. Michael needing a lot of grip, but choosing to cool those tyres. We know from the previous few races that the McLaren is much lighter on its tyres than the Ferrari, and you see it there easily for yourself as Michael Schumacher has to keep cooling them down, but it's at the moment able to maintain what is now down to 0.8 of a second lead. And Coulthard pulling away now from Button. His next target is Ralf Schumacher down the road by 14 seconds. So Coulthard's got his work cut out to get on the podium this afternoon for what would be his 40th podium, but he needs to be on the top of that podium to keep his World Championship chances very much alive. And at the moment we've just got this duel up the front between Michael Schumacher and Mika Häkkinen. Let me take you through the race. It started under the safety car, some drivers feeling it was too dangerous, and Michael Schumacher moving through quite quickly after that. Häkkinen though was maintaining a lead and spun off at Stavelot, giving this lead to Michael Schumacher. Midway through the race, Schumacher easily had the pace, and then since the second stop, Häkkinen clearly has had the faster car, and this is the net result. Over the line now, what is the gap? We can see it for ourselves, but it's 0.7 on the stopwatch.
5 laps to go, and neither of them, of course, can afford to come in again. There's no reason why they should do. They've had their 2 stops that were planned. Michael Schumacher would appear to have overheating tyres in comparison with Mika Häkkinen, and it is coming up to Les Combes that time after time he's dodged into the wet patch to try and cool those tyres down a bit. Let's see whether he does it again. This is coming up to the wetter patch, and he's into it and moves across to take the line for the corner, still in the lead on the 39th lap.
While you were describing that, Murray, I'm looking at the computer, and Häkkinen is a full 10 kilometres an hour faster down that back straight. If he gets anywhere near Michael Schumacher, I think if we had to drift past him and pick up a toe for extra speed too, just like Coulthard was able to do with Jenson Button. So Häkkinen has got the straight line speed and the car under braking to pass Michael Schumacher if he can get close enough.
Mika Häkkinen looks down into the cockpit there, and his wife is tense. Everybody is tense, because as I said earlier on, this is the battle for the World Championship. For Mika Häkkinen to maintain the lead he's got now, to extend it and go on to make it 3 World Championships in a row. For Michael Schumacher, who joined Ferrari in 1996, vowing to get them back to the top. Well, they're back at the top in terms of the Constructors' Championship, which they won last year after Michael Schumacher had made that magnificent return at Malaysia after breaking his leg at Silverstone. But they have yet to win a Drivers' World, and now they're coming up to the Minardi. If the Minardi gets in the way, it could affect the lead, and the Minardi is that of Marc Genet, who is down in 14th place and has already been lapped once. Down to La Source, the slowest corner on the circuit, about 35 miles an hour. So the Minardi's been lapped, the Ferrari's bearing down on them. In front of the Minardi of Marc Genet is Alexander Wurtz's Benetton, down in 13th position. Over Radial, now it's here that Mika Häkkinen can close up. I don't think he's close enough to stop.
He is close enough, Murray. He has got the slipstream. We know he's got 10 kilometres an hour extra, but Michael Schumacher very firmly closing the door, leaving Häkkinen nowhere to go at all. Häkkinen had the speed, he didn't have anywhere to use it.
And that reminds me of Damon Hill and Michael Schumacher. Damon Hill in the Williams, Michael Schumacher in the Benetton in 1994, had exactly the same place where Damon Hill and Michael actually banged wheels at Les Combes in their tremendous, ferocious fight for leadership in the Belgian Grand Prix, which is being repeated here again. Lap 40. We've got laps 41, 2, 3 and 4 to go at the end of this one. And I have to say, it's looking as though Mika Häkkinen can take that lead and increase his lead in the championship. They're coming up to Wurtz now, who is lapping some 2 seconds a lap slower than they are. They've both got much more powerful and better handling cars. They'll both pass him, but will it affect the lead?
Well, Michael there, pretty firm. I think it was legitimate. Here we're going to see it again. Michael starts to move to the middle of the road. He knows that Mika's got a run on him. He knows he's got better straight line speed. And Häkkinen, look, with absolutely nowhere to go. And Michael moving back across the track. Theoretically, you're not supposed to do that, but he was moving back to take the line through the corner. Very close call, but I think a legitimate move there from Michael Schumacher.
And I think we're going to see it again, because they're coming through to complete the lap now. That is 40 laps. laps completed, just 4 laps left to go.
Now Häkkinen's best chance is if Schumacher has to follow Zonta closely through Eau Rouge, and I don't think that's going to happen, particularly this time around. I think they're going to pass Zonta on another part of the racetrack, because that's what gives Häkkinen his best shot. Schumacher in dirty air, and then Häkkinen with the extra straight line speed. And once again, look, Michael's having to defend, and Mika, and the back marker's in the way. Can he do it? Yes, he's done it. A brilliant move there, either side of Zonta, and Häkkinen brilliantly takes the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix.
And you can see the delight in the McLaren garage, because that could well have decided the race. A superb, gritty, determined, forceful move from Mika Häkkinen takes the lead in the McLaren Mercedes, and he's on lap 41, 3 laps to go at the end of this one, and he's obviously got superior performance. I would expect him now to pull away, particularly on that approach up to Les Combes out of Eau Rouge.
So Zonta really did come into play there. Michael tried to defend the line and then chose to go the long way around Zonta, and Häkkinen just kept going. Here we see from the front view, the camera up at Les Combes, Michael defending the track, making his Ferrari as wide as he can. He then went round the outside of Zonta, and Häkkinen said, thank you very much, I'll have a piece of that side of the racetrack then this time around, and really took Michael by surprise. And can you imagine how much surprise Zonta had?
Yeah, and remember, they were doing it at an approach speed of some 205 miles an hour. These men are supermen, and you're getting the living proof of it before your very eyes now. Coming through to complete lap 41 out of 44, 3 laps to go, crossing the line, the positions reversed, and the time gap between them 1.4 seconds. It's looking like a bad call for Michael Schumacher.
Michael Schumacher, of course, came in quite early, so he's now done 23 or 24 laps. Well, certainly over 20 laps on this set of tyres, and it's quite clear to see he's beginning to struggle. Coulthard took 5 seconds out of Ralf Schumacher. Schumacher in third, Coulthard in fourth last time around. Don't know what kind of problems Ralf had, with that gap now down to just 8.2 seconds for the final place on the podium.
Yeah, and it could be a superb race for McLaren, not just from the point of view of the Drivers' Championship, but the Constructors' Championship, particularly if David Coulthard can continue to close that gap and get past Ralf Schumacher. Here is the battle. This is Ralf Schumacher in the Williams BMW out of Raidillon, climbing up to Les Combes. David Coulthard not in sight as you see the heat haze billowing up around the Williams, and the gap is still some 8 seconds. So David Coulthard has made no ground. Well, he's made 0.2 of a second actually, but it looks as though Ralf Schumacher is in good shape for third position, in which case it would be Schumachers, the brothers, the best brothers that there have ever been in Formula One, in second and third places. Jenson Button, by the way, still very much in the top 6 in 5th position, with David Coulthard in 4th place. Frentzen on a 1 single point for the Jordan team in 6th place. Jacques Villeneuve is in 7th place. Johnny Herbert in the Jaguar is running 8th, 2 places ahead of Eddie Irvine. So it looks as though both the Jaguars are going to be in the top 10, sandwiching Mika Salo, the Sauber driver, who's going to Toyota next year.
Yes, still no idea of why Ralf lost 5 seconds in 1 lap. Maybe a little trip across the gravel somewhere, or a major problem with the back marker. Now, Häkkinen 1.7 seconds ahead, and Michael appears to have dropped his pace somewhat into the 55s, and I think he has no ammunition left to take a fight once again to Mika Häkkinen.
Yeah, it looks as though he has reluctantly, very reluctantly settled for second. But Michael Schumacher is ever the realist. After the race has finished, when he's in the interview room, I have no doubt that he will be saying something like, I realised Mika Häkkinen had got the superior performance. I tried my very best to keep him back. It was a superb move to get past Zonta the way he did on the inside when I had to go round the outside, and with my tyres in the state that they were in, and I'm guessing this, I just decided that 6 points was better than going off and getting none, because the championship is still going to be very, very much on. Mika Häkkinen is going to be on 74 World Championship points. Michael Schumacher is going to be on 68 World Championship points. 6 points between them. We've still got the Italian, American, Japanese and Malaysian Grand Prix to go. But I have to say that it's looking better and better for McLaren all the time. They've got the car running beautifully. Mika Häkkinen is right on form. David Coulthard, by the way, is still in 4th position, 7.7 seconds behind Ralf Schumacher, as race leader Mika Häkkinen closes up on the arrows in front of him to lap him.
Yes, the problem Ferrari have got, I mean, this has been a superb performance by Michael Schumacher. He is definitely the man in the tricky conditions. But the problem is, had this been a totally dry race, you have to say, those McLarens would have been a long way down the road. They had much superior speed in the totally dry conditions, and only the tricky conditions have enabled Michael to put up this kind of performance, in my view.
Well, the arrows moves over, lets him through. Saw the McLaren approaching in the mirrors. Good manners, good bit of Formula One driving. And now Mika Häkkinen is out on his own on the last lap of the 2000 Belgian Grand Prix. The blue flag's waving, but the man has already taken action. And Michael Schumacher has still got to get past. Well, Mika Häkkinen has driven a magnificent race. He's been on top in Belgium for the whole time. He was quickest in qualifying. He was quickest this morning. He's going to end up winning the race and getting those 10 World Championship points, and that will be his 4th win of the year.
So the key point then was Michael Schumacher stopping early for his second stop, having a long run then to the end of the race. Those tyres giving up on him. He knew that from very early stages. He was already trying to cool them down despite being slick tyres on a slick racetrack, finding the damp patches, because he really knew he was going to struggle with tyre degradation later on in that stint. Häkkinen pitting some laps later, and Michael just could not do enough to fend off a flying Finn, who desperately seems to want that 3rd consecutive World Championship.
And Michael is pushing right to the end, faster in the first sector than Mika Häkkinen, faster in the second sector by half a second than Mika Häkkinen. But the Finn has got it in the bag unless something dreadful happens in the closing few hundred yards of the race, as Michael Schumacher comes right up to the rear wing almost of the McLaren Mercedes. Mika Häkkinen exits the bus stop and for the first time in his career wins the Belgian Grand Prix by 1.1 seconds from Michael Schumacher. But it might just as well have been 1.1 hours from Michael Schumacher, because now Mika Häkkinen has stretched his World Championship lead as we see the superb Ralf Schumacher in this Williams BMW, which has gone so well for the whole of this year's season. The first time that BMW have returned and joined the Williams team, and he gets 4 World Championship points and another podium position to match that he got in Australia at the beginning of the year. And in 4th place, David Coulthard comes through to get 3 World Championship points for McLaren, so that's 13 points for McLaren, only 6 points for Ferrari. McLaren have stretched their lead dramatically in the Constructors' Championship.
Yes, Coulthard then, a bad call early on for whatever reason. He should have been in the pits at least 2 laps earlier for slicks, and possibly even 3. 3 would have been a bit of a gamble, but I think that's cost Coulthard serious opportunity this afternoon. I don't think he quite had the pace anyway of Häkkinen and Schumacher, but in any event, not even on the podium, down there in 4th place, so he loses a further 7 points to teammate Häkkinen in the World Championship.
And for the 3rd time in his first season of Grand Prix racing, Jenson Button finishes in 5th position to get 2 World Championship points, and another absolutely brilliant drive, which will move him ahead, I think, of Jacques Villeneuve, up to 7th position in the World Championship in his first season. But that's subject to confirmation.
Meantime, just to confirm that Mika Häkkinen for McLaren and Mercedes-Benz has won the Belgian Grand Prix by the narrow margin of 1.1 seconds after 190 miles plus at Spa from Michael Schumacher, with Ralf Schumacher in third place. Sure enough, Häkkinen is now 6 points ahead of Michael Schumacher in the World Championship. David Coulthard is now 13 points behind his teammate Mika Häkkinen. Coulthard in third place, and I suspect that very soon Ron Dennis will be having that discussion with David Coulthard and asking him to defer to Mika Häkkinen, as he did last year, to enable Häkkinen to make it 3 World Championships in a row, McLaren hope. Barrichello is still in fourth place in the Drivers' Championship. Ralf Schumacher is in 5th position, and he's displaced Giancarlo Fisichella, who goes down to 6th place. So a superb race for McLaren, a superb race for Williams BMW, with those 5th places for Button and 3rd places for Ralf Schumacher. And of course, in the Constructors' Championship, McLaren have quite dramatically extended their lead. 10 points for Häkkinen, 3 points for David Coulthard, 13 points in all, only 6 points for Michael Schumacher. So they've extended their lead in the World Championship from 1 point to 8 points. Still a long way to go, still both championships to be decided, but it's looking better and better for McLaren all the time, and better for Mika Häkkinen all the time. Michael Schumacher still in the cockpit. He usually leaps out of the car straight away, but a very happy Eija Häkkinen, who will be giving birth to their child, and we're looking now at race highlights from the Belgian Grand Prix. And McLaren are now 8 World Championship points in the Constructors' Championship ahead of Ferrari. As you see them turning into the bus stop, and there's Jenson Button, Jarno Trulli in 2nd place, Michael Schumacher in 3rd place, Jenson Button at the time in 4th place. And Jenson can still feel very, very proud of himself. He may have started 3rd on the grid and hoped that, that's the repeat of Jenson Button hitting Jarno Trulli as the Italian turned in at La Source to be spun out of the race and get out of the car and gloomily walk back. Mika Häkkinen spinning earlier on in the race, and remember, he's won it in spite of losing the time there, which enabled Michael Schumacher there to take the lead from the McLaren Mercedes, from which Mika Häkkinen fought back so brilliantly, as he has shown us time and time again, notably at the last race of the last 2 years, 1998 and 1999, when Häkkinen won the World Championship against adversity at Suzuka in Japan. So 3rd in the World Championship for Constructors is still held by the Williams team, as when I say still, because they had it when they went into this race. Benetton are still in 4th position because they just got that 1 World Championship point from Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and Jordan are still in 5th position, and the BAR team are still in 6th place. Up onto the podium then, and now the Mika Häkkinen trademark, the punched fist, and the Finnish national anthem. Emotional time for Mika Häkkinen. Yet more in charge of the Drivers' Championship, the British national anthem for McLaren.
well, not here in Belgium anyway, as a very proud Joe Ramirez of McLaren watches his man Mika Häkkinen on the top step of the podium yet again. And there is no doubt now, after the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa, that McLaren have the advantage, that Mika Häkkinen has the advantage. McLaren have worked long, hard, patiently and dedicatedly under Ron Dennis and Adrian Newey, their technical chief, and all the other people at Woking that have done such a terrific job for the team, and of course at Ilmore Engineering, who make the Mercedes-Benz engines at Brixworth. So McLaren go now to Italy at Monza in 2 weeks' time, knowing that their car will have the sort of advantage over Ferrari that it had here in Belgium. Not a big advantage, but enough for them to win the race. But Ferrari on their home turf at Monza will be straining every muscle to regain the initiative, as of course will Michael Schumacher. And congratulations to Ralf Schumacher, who gets his third place award after a magnificent drive, a very, very worthy drive. So McLaren can be very happy, so can Mercedes-Benz. Ferrari less happy. Williams and BMW together, I should think, must be ecstatic. They didn't expect a season like this.
Super drive from the reigning world champion Mika Häkkinen. There's always a Schumacher on the podium in Spa. There is a lot to discuss about the Belgian Grand Prix. We're going to be talking live to David Coulthard a bit down the line. We will hear from those three champagne-soaked men up there on the podium. Martin Brundle has joined us in the studio. There'll be the expert views of Tony Jardine as well. We will be right back. You're back with us at Spa. Mika Häkkinen, the winner here. David Coulthard, his McLaren teammate, in fourth. And David joins us right now. David, definitely not the result you wanted. You really wanted more than fourth this afternoon, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, to keep in there with a hunt for the championship, I've got to be scoring more points, and obviously make it difficult for myself, not qualifying as well as I would have liked. But I'm trying to understand exactly what we were doing at the pit stop, because obviously I lost a lot of place there, and that put me out behind Frentzen, which I'm not sure how many seconds I lost there, but it was a good second for each lap I was behind him. And you know, even one extra point would have been good today.
That's happened to you a little bit before, hasn't it? One or two, you've come out worse on sort of pit stop strategy. Can you throw any light on what, or any more light on why that did happen again today?
I can't really until I talk to the team. You know, obviously when I saw Michael pit, then I started a conversation as to whether it was the right time or not. And you take it as read that the team are going to look at the sector times and advised as best they can what would be the thing to do. Now obviously Mika decided to pit the next lap. Given how far back I was, then I think there's a possibility that I could have pitted that lap as well. And even if I had to queue up slightly, I would have lost less time than I lost obviously doing the complete lap. So there's things like that I think that, perfectly honest, as a team we need to sharpen up on. And obviously from one point of view, from Mika's point of view, then it was a perfect race. But you know, I want to get more out of my races, and the last few have not been good enough.
We reckon you lost anything between 30 and 40 seconds on that particular manoeuvre, David. How would you sum up now the rest of the season from your point of view? I suppose the big question everybody back home is going to be asking is, are you still chasing the world title?
I am, but obviously now it's getting further away, because if all cars are finishing races, then you know, I don't know the exact maths, but I guess I've got to win the next 3 races, next 4 races, and you know, that's going to be difficult against the competition. But a lot of things can happen. You know, reliability obviously is a factor which can win you back a lot of points, and you know, I'm definitely not going to give up on that dream until the points don't add up.
It is a dream for you. Do you think reality might set in, and that perhaps your team boss Ron Dennis next week will say, well, David, now again you have to support Mika Häkkinen's charge?
No, I don't.
Okay, let's just talk about the start, can we, David? Because there was a lot of confusion around at the start. And were you one of the drivers who wanted the start to be behind the safety car? Because it did you no favours as well, didn't it?
Yeah, obviously it took away the opportunity to overtake, but it also took away the potential for an incident. And I know there'll be a debate over it, but the fact is I was asked beforehand, and I said that based on the previous years we've had here, the safest thing is to have a safety car start. you know, you can have the have-a-go heroes into the first corner and your whole weekend's ruined. So I'd rather be finishing fourth than going out at the first corner. So I think in this situation, based on the experience here of the past few years, I think Charlie made the right decision.
And do you think that was the feeling of most of the drivers down there?
I believe he was going to ask the other two directors of the GPDA, and if there was a unanimous decision, that's what he would do. So I presume Michael and Alex said the same as I did, and then the others who don't put as much effort in don't get a say.
Good. Just before you go, I think Tony wants a word with you, Tony.
Well, it was really just to follow up on that start, because as Martin was saying on the commentary there, David, as well, it wasn't that wet at all, and I just wondered why it was a decision of all the drivers. Normally when it's just confined to the FIA who make that decision, and you have to go out and get on with it, because you, along with a lot of other drivers, were disadvantaged.
I didn't hear the last part of your sentence there, but I think that the bottom line is we've seen a number of incidents here over the last few years when we've had wet starts, cars going out at the first corner. Surely for everyone it's got to be better to see all the cars making around the first lap and then a race from there. Obviously it takes away that excitement that everyone tunes in for that first 5 minutes of a Grand Prix, and then they probably tune off until the pit stops. But you know, you have to make a decision, and I think this was a smart decision based on the experience of this race. So we just have to accept it as it was, and another circuit may have been a different decision.
Okay, David, we appreciate not the best day you've had at work in the year 2000. We appreciate you joining us as you have done. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks.
Okay, well, Martin with us. Martin, let's talk about the start. David adopted the party liner that most of the drivers seem to be saying to you before the start. Yeah, we prefer the safety car, but it deprived us of a great spectacle. And listen to you in commentary, you didn't agree with it, did you?
No, it was clear to me the track was not wet enough for to be necessary for the safety car. I understand their concerns. Nobody wants drivers killed. I mean, it's amazing. A couple of years ago when we had that huge accident there that somebody wasn't badly injured or killed. I accept that. But this is a dangerous sport, you know. It says so on the back of the tickets, as Bernie Ecclestone will tell you. And that track, you can see it there for yourselves, does not need a safety car at all. There was a bit of spray when they got it. I know, it's terrifying. You can't even see your own steering wheel when you're going up the back straight. But it's part and parcel of Grand Prix racing. You've got to cope with all of the elements, you've got to take the risks, and you've got to make the best of, you know, all of the conditions.
You're really saying, though, that if you'd have been among that lot today, you'd have been the one who'd have said, I want this race to start properly?
I started this race a dozen times, and I bet at least half a dozen of those times was in the pouring rain. It's what you do. You're a Grand Prix driver. You drive Grand Prix.
Can I just say something else, Jim? And I can go back to '96 here, and Martin was driving the Jordan in Brazil before the start of the race. It deluged. It was literally a lake. And they asked Martin to go out and take the car out, and there was a bow wave come up over the front of the car. You know, that's the sort of testing of the conditions beforehand. And if you take 97 here, it deluged 20 minutes before the start, and it started behind the safety car. That was fair enough, but those conditions did not warrant it, and I believe it was a decision of the FIA. It's like all the Manchester United players getting around the referee and barracking him on the pitch or on the circuit, say, hey, we've got to go behind the safety car. I'm sorry, that's not how it should have been. And you come to Spa, which is the most daunting and difficult of tracks. It is part of it. It's part of a Grand Prix driver's skill to make the start, and it goes with the territory here at Spa-Francorchamps.
The bottom line is going to David, who we've just spoken to. He needed something extra special at the start, and that was denied him.
Yes, it was, but as David pointed out, it could have gone either way. He could have made up a place, or he could have had a have-a-go hero, as he puts it, running into him. So, you know, the people most advantaged were at the sharp end of the grid, and the people most disadvantaged were at the back end of the grid. But I have to say, I mean, Gerhard Berger said to me on the line, I'm really pleased I'm not driving this Grand Prix today. He said, I wouldn't want to be driving this Grand Prix. I mean, as it happens, I would have. But, you know, once you get that first lap out of the way, it calms down a bit. So drive sensibly.
Yeah, strange that we had a dry race as well throughout. What about Jenson Button here, Martin? I would think he's quite chuffed that he drove the race today.
He drove a good race today. We saw him have a bad half lap, really. He totally went the wrong side of Truly there trying to get through. He sort of tucked himself up in an area where he was never going to get through, and Schumacher then leapt over him instead. I think Jenson probably felt annoyed about that, and tried to make it all up in the very next corner. And he's a long way behind, look, at this stage of the Jordan, and the Jordan having to get off the brake, but that was always going to end up in tears. Fortunately for Jenson, not his tears, but it did cost him quite dearly in the race, and that that wasn't the smartest move I've seen him do behind the wheel of a Grand Prix car, but I'm supersonic impressed he was up there to do it in the first place.
We had Eddie Jordan sitting here doing, saying that Sir Frank Williams must be crackers letting him go. I don't know what Eddie might say to him after what he did to his man Trulli there, though.
Well, no, perhaps he'd have a different view on it, but when he analyses it in complete, looking at the race in totality, you see that at least Jenson Button is prepared to have a go, because this Briatore said, like, I'm signing this guy, he's very good. The one thing he lacks is aggression. With experience, he's going to learn that. And he had a go today, and we've seen him in the wet and the dry at Spa, and he's been great. Okay, he made a mistake there, but Trulli let him off. Afterwards, he said, well, okay, you know, it's a mistake that happens. And he still got the thing through to 5th place. Yeah. The guy's a real star.
Mika Häkkinen won this race despite spinning off, and we didn't actually see the spin in great detail, but he's done really, really well to recover from it and come through and win.
Yeah, you summed it up. He won the race, literally. I mean, he went out there and took the race back. He'd given it away with that spin. The Belgian TV guys sort of missed the key moment. They've got the end of it, look. But a bit of a half spin, really, there from Mika. Front brakes on, front end comes back on the wet grass, and off he goes. There's Michael Schumacher going through to take the lead. And the next sector of the race, Mika really looked like he'd blown it. He didn't have the speed, he couldn't respond. We know he had a heavier fuel load now than Michael Schumacher because he pitted a while later. But really, Michael seemed to have the legs by a long way, 1 second a lap sometimes on Mika. After the second stop, Mika just got a second breath, didn't he?
How do you explain that? How come he was so much quicker after the second stop and made up all that ground on Michael Schumacher?
I think it's a combination of probably the tyres felt a little bit better to him. The track was virtually bone dry then, and I think he just gritted his teeth and went for it, frankly. He wanted that race win, didn't he?
He did. David Coulthard had troubles getting past Heinz-Harald Frentzen, didn't he? And finally managed it on a pit stop. Tony, but this was never really going to be David's day, though, was it?
No, because he'd been stuck behind him, because, you know, he'd had to wait and go around that extra lap to come in. But this is where, you know, it was the McLaren guys against the Jordan guys, and of course it's Coulthard against Heinz-Harald Frentzen. We've already had this spat in qualifying where they'd actually ruined each other's qualifying session. But, you know, the McLaren guys, Michael Negline, the chief mechanic, and the guys from Oakham got him out just ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. And it was important because DC's not out of it altogether yet, and at least he was able to salvage some points.
Frentzen apparently didn't get on the right spot there, did he? But I mean, just going back to what really cost David so dearly, the mess up, you can describe that when he had to do the extra lap. What's your best guess about that? I mean, will there be meetings about that, and will McLaren say, well, perhaps we didn't play fair by him?
No, I think they just didn't do it very well, but in a way, also David's got to take command of the situation. I mean, Lacey pitted even a lap earlier. The Ferrari were responding to Lacey's section times, in my view. And if David felt it was ready for slicks, he should have made the call, should have come in. I lost the Grand Prix here in '92 because I believed it was the right time to come in. Michael Schumacher went off in front of me, and I decided to wait one more lap. Michael saw my tyres, came in, and he won the race. But you've got to have the courage of your convictions, and I think they should have called him in on the same lap as Häkkinen. I said it on the commentary, 17.4 seconds. We know they stopped for no longer than 11, so quite clearly he's going to be coming into the garage 6 seconds after Mika's left. They've got to get his tyres out and his fuel rig ready, but if it cost them another 3 or 4 seconds, that's the absolute maximum.
You're always a believer in that, almost queuing.
I don't think they would have queued. Mika was never going to be stationary for 17 seconds. They would not have queued.
Same as Hockenheim, wasn't it?
Yeah, I really.
Queuing would have been better.
And what surprises me is if it's so clear for us up in the commentary box to say that, I can't understand why it's not clear for others to see it too.
He had a good two British drivers had a terrific scrap during what was a very eventful Grand Prix, wasn't it? Coulthard and Button, and well, Jenson held him back for a while, but had to give way in the end.
I mean, this is a little bit of a rerun the end of Hockenheim, because if you remember, Jenson Button was coming to the field. He closed in on David Coulthard, but this time coming up to Lake Coombe, you know, over 200 miles an hour superiority there, and through comes Coulthard to take the 4th place. But it's nice to see the two of them together. Nice clean manoeuvre as well. The great thing is, I think the older drivers as well can trust Jenson Button. From very early on, they've learned this guy's good, his track craft is good, and they're prepared, you know, to let him have a go. They don't think he's dangerous, do they?
No, in fact, when we were doing the track guide earlier on in the weekend with Jock Clear, Villeneuve's engineer, he was saying to me, Villeneuve has a lot of respect for Button because he's tough on the track, but he plays fair as well. And you know, it's unusual for Jacques Villeneuve to say something positive about another driver. Put it that way.
Yeah. I think we'll all endorse that up here anyway. Occasionally here we say, well, the big two, they never actually fight it out, they never go toe to toe, eyeball to eyeball. But I think when we look back at this Belgian Grand Prix, we will remember this scrap between Schumacher and Hakkinen.
This was opportunist from Hakkinen here, using the back marker. I thought he would need the back marker in Eau Rouge, but we know he had. This is the early one actually, the first time he tried to get through, and Michael really closing the door quite nicely, a touch late, but very effectively, let's say. And now, second opportunity, we know that Hakkinen's got 10 kilometres an hour more in a straight line, plus the toe on that occasion. And Michael will be very surprised to see Mika coming round the other side. I don't know why Michael elected to go the long way round Zonta at that point. It was totally opportunistic, and you have to say a mistake there from Michael.
That was a Schumacher error, you'd say, would you?
I think, yes, by leaving the door open on the inside like that, he quite clearly offered Mika the short way round. And there's a lot of grip, everybody knows. There's superb grip up the inside into Les Combes. You can really brake late there.
Well, I hope they're going to ask Michael Schumacher about that when they go to the press conference. We will be joining that press conference when you rejoin us. Okay then, let's hear what the big three have got to say in the press conference. The two Schumachers are there, and so is the winner of the Belgian Grand Prix, Mika Hakkinen.
Mika, starting with you, it was an absolutely incredible race to watch. What was it like to be part of it and win it?
Well, it was incredible. it was incredible. It was very difficult, unusual situations. Including my spin was not obviously planned. But the curbs here in Spa are very, very difficult and very slippery. And when they catch you, it's nothing what you can really do. I was lucky to stay on the track and able to continue, and I was able to start changing Michael. But it was a fabulous race to drive and really enjoyable, and the car was better and better all the time.
As a consequence of the spin that you just mentioned, you made up for it with an absolutely spectacular and heart-stopping overtaking manoeuvre. Can you talk us through that?
Yes, it was quite a different one. Normally, that kind of situation is unusual to overtake somebody on a straight line when the back marker is between us. And I knew that way, following Michael, you know, it's no point to try to follow him and then try to overtake him and at the straight, because obviously he's not going to give me a room. It's correct?
Yeah, I make it difficult.
So I took the plan B and I went completely inside and overtook the back marker, and at the same time overtook the Michael, and I could tow also from the back marker, so it gave me extra speed, and it was a great overtaking maneuver, and I loved it. I'm not sure if the Michael did.
Thank you. Nice. Thank you, Mika. Michael Schumacher, we saw you going on to the right-hand side to the climb to Les Combes, obviously cooling your tyres down. Was that the reason why Mika actually caught you up?
No, that was not the reason. Actually helped me a little bit to go away from him in the first part of the race, as I was building up my lead, honestly. But later on, that was not enough, because he was flying towards me, being so much faster that nothing would have helped.
We were talking about the overtaking manoeuvre with Mika. How was it from your viewpoint?
Obviously, I was quite lucky or happy to see this back marker in front of me, because I knew I was a lot slower on the straight line speed from what the team told me. So being in slipstream of the guy in front of me, I thought it will not be enough for him to catch me. And then obviously once there's somebody on the same road, then normally there's only two cars that fit next to each other. But Mika did really an outstanding maneuver to pass on the inside there, because that was unexpected for my side. But honestly, if he wouldn't have catched me there, I think he would have catched me a lap or two later, because he was too fast down there, and you're allowed to move once the line, and he would have taken me on the outside, to my view. I tried my best. It was not enough today, but we got 6 points, and we keep the championship alive, even though we made it a little bit more difficult today, but we will keep going for it. I mean, it's not the end now.
Thank you very much, Michael. Ralf Schumacher, the ever-improving Williams, you're third today. Do you think as the season goes on you might be able to get a win?
Well, I think certainly we thought that we were close today in rain conditions. That would have been the only chance for us to be relatively close to the top, I thought. But we saw today that Mika was outstandingly quick and compared to anybody else basically. So that was not possible. We're working on it, obviously. I think we are definitely the third team in the World Championship now. We try to stay there and get some more good podium or points finishes.
How was your car today in these mixed conditions, because you didn't have much time in the warm-up, obviously?
We were pretty much prepared for the rain, so we had a sort of medium setup, which I must say was pretty good. I mean, except the two in front of us and some other just before they pitted, we were relatively quick, so I could stay ahead of Kurt. I had a little bit of a problem towards the end, so I thought the race was over. It was 4 laps or 5 laps to go. I had a throttle problem, so I went into a turn and nothing happened anymore. It was like fuel out, but it was throttled. But it came back alive, and luckily till the end.
Confirmation of the standings for you. Häkkinen 74, Michael Schumacher 68, David Coulthard 61, Barrichello 49, Ralf Schumacher 20, Fisichella 18. And Mercedes, McLaren 125, Ferrari 117, the big two, BMW looking good for that third place. Let's have a word with Jenson Button. Started third, finished fifth. Here he is chatting to James Allen.
Jenson Button, what an amazing day. First of all, you started in third place and you were very dynamic at the start.
Yeah, the car was working well at the beginning. I tried to get the inside of Trulli into the first corner. I think it was on the second or third lap, and it just didn't happen. We collided, and that's how I dropped back to fifth, I think. But all round, it's good to get some points, but a bit disappointing.
You seem a bit disappointed, because obviously you were looking at trying to win this race, weren't you?
I don't know about win it, but it would have been nice to be in the top three, but there you go. Hopefully next time.
Was it very, very different when the conditions changed to full dry? Were you able to keep the pace?
Yeah, it was very, very different, obviously. It was from wet to dry. It was very difficult to know when to do the pit stop also. I think we were a bit late, but all round, it's not too bad. Got some points, and I think I'm very close to Jack now in the champ, so it's good.
Not too bad. He's had a belting weekend. OK, let's just sum it all up, shall we? Tony Jardine, you first.
Well, I mean, Bruce McLaren won first here for McLaren in 68. It's the first time for Häkkinen, looking very, very strong. But it is now Kraus's time at Ferrari. Monza is next, and they've got to try and prevent a riot in red, I'm afraid.
Interesting hearing Michael Schumacher admitting there, saying they were just too quick here.
Yeah, but it was fascinating also to hear him say, my team told me that he was much faster than me down the straight. There's a lot of information passed between Schumacher and his team. I think that's why he's so smart during the race. I mean, effectively, he was much closer to winning this race today than we thought he would be after free practice and qualifying. And we know he's good at Monza, we know he's good in Japan and Malaysia. Indianapolis is a complete unknown to anybody. So I think he's right to say I'm not out of this yet, but Mika Häkkinen, I mean, that's now 42 points out of 50 Amazing, in the last 5 races.
OK, thank you very much to you both. And as Martin had just said there, next we go to Monza for the Italian Grand Prix, the full ITV service in a couple of weeks' time. Of course, highlights tonight 11:15, ITV2 tomorrow at 7, and then off we go to Monza, qualifying live 11:30 on the Saturday, the race live at 12:15. Well, the hack attack continues. Mika Häkkinen has won in Belgium for the first time thanks to a brilliant late manoeuvre, overtaking the Spa master Michael Schumacher. See you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.
I'm standing here with Jarno Trulli. Jarno, I guess Jenson Button's not your best friend at the moment.
Well, you know, I'm disappointed. I know it can happen. Unfortunately, it happened between me and him, two young driver. I think it was just a misunderstanding, especially it thought that was enough room to overtake, but in fact there was not, and it just hit me on the back and the spawn, and the engine stalled. I was struggling because my tires went, especially my rear tires, because track was drying up and I was on high fuel level.
Thanks, Yana, bad luck. He's walking so quick. Giancarlo, reliability let you down yesterday and it's let you down again today.
Yeah, we had a problem, maybe electrical problem, we don't know, we need to check it. I was driving very careful at the beginning of the race. There was a possibility to do a good race, but nothing to do.
What are the conditions like out there?
Now it's okay for dry tires. At the beginning it was wet, but after a few laps there was the circuit getting dry, and with the rain tires it was quite difficult. Okay.
Okay. Rubens, just tell me what happened.
Well, to be honest, I don't know yet, but it looks like I had no fuel. It was for a little bit. I was coming into the pits and the engine just killed. So looks like I had no fuel.
Ferrari, the master strategist, I mean, we don't expect that thing to happen, do you?
Well, no, but you know, the car was running quite well. Unfortunately, starting from the back is so difficult to overtake. It took me a long time to overtake Frenzen, and then with Jacques, he was quite fast on the straight. But then we changed the strategy. It was working very well because I was quite fast. At the end, there's no points today.
Okay? Yep. Charles, I can't believe that happened. I'm sure you can't either.
Me too. I mean, when the car slowed down, I was just... I wanted to do something to do like when there is a race in Paris-Dakar, to go down of the car and to try to fix it and to come back racing. But I mean, it's a shame. What is important is for the team, you know, when we have no result like now, when the driver is showing his input and his will, I mean, his will, it's very important to for the spirit of the team. So I hope that was positive this weekend.
Tell me about the good bit. Tell me about that early change to tyres which jumped you up to 4th place.
Yeah, because you know, I have nothing to lose. I decided to take the maximum risk, and I went to these slick tyres, and it was very difficult, but it was my only chance to go back on the top.
So near and yet so far.
Thank you.
Heinz, tell me about your race. Bit disappointing in some ways, I guess.
Yeah, well, why?
Because you lost a position in the pit stops.
Oh, okay, I mean, that's racing. The McLaren was pretty strong. To lose a position to the McLaren is sad, but nothing, I would say they are quicker than us. And I think when they went into the pits to refuel, they had less fuel to put in than us, and that's why they were faster in the pits.
So you're quite happy with your result?
Oh, 1 point is important for us here, step by step to go forward. But I can see the guys ahead of us, the competitors in the Constructor Championship, gained as well some points. So a little bit disappointed from this respect, yeah.
Back again. Okay. Ricardo, tell me about your afternoon.
We were very close to choose the intermediate tires to start the race, but it was a lot risky, you know, and we chose the wet tires, and after 3 laps it was dry. And my setup was for wet tires, and with the slick tire was very difficult.
Just tell me about that moment at the end of the race when you had a Ferrari going past you on one side and a McLaren on the other.
That was a crazy moment. I saw one leader coming behind, and I slowed down in the straight just to let the Ferrari go. And I was looking on the left mirror, Schumacher was beside me. When I look in the right, just the McLaren came very straight, and I didn't move because if I changed the line, it could be dangerous.
Is it a bit scary in a way?
I think so. I hope I didn't make any problem for the other drivers, because I was just trying to don't make any problem for anyone.
Thanks. You're on, Keith. Well, Jensen, how did you enjoy your first Belgian Grand Prix?
Wasn't the best. I haven't had a good race here ever, I think. But I tried to get past Jarno when Mike went up the inside of Jarno, and I thought there was enough room for me to go through because he was on the outside. But he obviously turned sharp to get on the inside of Michael on the exit, and we touched, and that was it really. But
what was it like on the opening lap? Because you seem to be taking it a little bit cautiously.
Yeah, I was. I didn't want to throw off on the first lap. I was quite cautious, but the car was working well. Just took me a bit of time to get into it, and then I caught up with Jarno, and then it happened.
So what was going on in your mind for the rest of the race? Just concentrating, or were you thinking, what, I should have done this, I should have done that?
Yeah, you always do think that a bit, but you've got to try and keep that in your mind because it happened, and you can't do anything to help it really. And it's good to get some points again. 2 points add to my points is not too bad, so let's look forward to the next one.
Ron Dennis, an amazing victory and one of the all-time great passing manoeuvres by Mika there.
It's great.
You got your daughter here. It's obviously a very emotional occasion for you, but you really are in the driving seat now in this World Championship, aren't you?
Yeah, you did a great job.
Well done. A very emotional Ron Dennis there. Mika, one of the all-time great passing manoeuvres. You must be ecstatic.
Yes, it was unusual condition, and I haven't done that kind of overtaking for many years, and so it felt spectacular, and I was very happy to have a situation like that, where the back marker didn't pull right suddenly when he saw Michael overtaking left, so it gave me the room to go inside, but it was close, I tell you.
You were really charging. Was there any anger involved in it? Because Michael did chop you quite badly the lap before, didn't he?
No. There was nothing like that. You know, I was a bit emotional immediately what happened before, but then again, like I said in a press conference, and you know, I have to look in a video and study and to understand what really happened before I start opening my mouth. You know.
Is this one of your most satisfying Grand Prix victories?
At this time of the year, winning like this feels really good.
Tell us one briefly before you go, finally about the championship situation. You've got 6 points on Michael now, 4 more races to go. You obviously today believe that you can do it. You must be strong.
I always believe we can do it, but you know, it's going to be exciting end of the year. Just have to take it easy.
Keep on thrilling us, Mika. Well done. Cheers.
See you next time. Good.
Okay, ready? Ralph, not a bad day's work today. A nice pass on Jensen as well.
Yeah, no, it was a great manoeuvre. It was a great race anyway for me. I mean, I couldn't find my way really this weekend till the race, and in the race the car was just great, and I was able to go a good pace. Obviously not quick enough for the top 2, but quick enough to be third.
You consolidated the whole team's position in third place in the championship. It's all looking pretty strong for BMW Williams.
It is looking far stronger than we expected, thanks to BMW and to Williams, I must say, and we have a few more gizmos coming for the next race, so we'll see.
Well done, thank you.
Michael, a pretty hard-fought second place for you.
Yeah, that's the way it is. I mean, the faster guy wins most of the time, and it was today. Mika did an outstanding maneuver with me, and we had a nice battling, which we had a talk afterwards, and he said that was outstanding. It was hard, but honestly, in the end of the day, he said that's our job.
You've been asked a lot about one of the overtaking manoeuvres with Mika. Now, we were watching it on the television. That's one thing to judge. What's it like when you're actually in the cockpit trying to judge these things during the race?
It is a lot more difficult. I mean, you have the nice view from the top, from outside, from every angle. We have mirrors 5 by 3 centimeter or whatever is the size of them, and we have to watch it from there. You have to judge the gap. You have to judge when you move from the left to the right side, and so it's a little bit more tricky for us, but in the end of the day, he did an outstanding maneuver when there was Zonter between us. I didn't expect him to dive through the inside, but great job.
I don't think Zonter did either. Tell me about your tyres, because you seem to be moving over onto the wet line a fair amount.
Yeah, naturally for Spa, I mean, tyres have a certain temperature, and if you can cool them down, you gain a little bit from it. You go through the dirt, which is a little bit of a disadvantage then on the other side. For me, it was a good option.
Were you having to cool them down?
Not necessarily. I mean, in the end, you saw that when I was in front of Mika, I wasn't doing that anymore for the last couple of laps. It wasn't a big difference, but it was a little bit easier for them. As I was going for a one stop towards the end, the long stint, it was quite good like that.
See you in Monza.
Thanks.
He's been trying since 1991. He's finally done it. World champion Mika Häkkinen, a winner in Belgium. Both Schumachers on the podium. Two British drivers, Coulthard and Button, in the top 5. 42 points out of a possible 50 now for the charging Häkkinen, world champion. Doesn't care of Schumacher. 4 to go. Coulthard up to 58. Barrichello losing to the top. But Keller. Can I just have a look at those? Make sure that we agree on those points before we. Sorry to interrupt JT's tea break. 42 points out of a possible 50 for Häkkinen. World champion now, a dozen clear of Schumacher.
Yeah, just to balance off against that because I've got now a bright white background.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to stick it on my shot?
It's more than that, isn't it? 68, 16 clear of Schumacher.
If you stick that on my shot, you see it's kind of
16 clear. 42 points out of a possible 50 in that 68, 78. 16 points clear of Schumacher. 4 races to go. Coulthard up to 61. Barrichello losing ground the top 3. Ralf Schumacher's podium take. That's okay. Agree 13 points for McLaren here. That means there's now an 8-point gap. That is right. The top Williams looking good for 3rd place now. Benetton. Did any of those those are? Oh yeah. Point for Jordan.
Yeah, but Pete's good, but he's not going to be able to fight the sun, unfortunately.
Adam, go back to your normal position. So I just confirm we agree on the replays, the non-start to kick off with Jensen Button messing it up at the bus stop and then whacking Trulli together. Häkkinen losing the lead with his spin. The British battle with Coulthard and Button, and then Schumacher and Häkkinen, yeah? No, gone. Don't want that.
That was my spare.
Points clear of Schumacher. Didn't realise it was that many.
Sorry, what did you say?
I don't think that's right.
No, you're talking about the constructors.
Can we just have a look at those individual points again? I'm not sure I don't think it's right, you know. 6 points.
6. That's right, 74.
6 points. Right, why did I think 16? Where's that? That's better.
That was my +6. You might have written that as a 1. It's a +6.
Right, 6. Okay. Coulthard up to 61. Yeah. Right. 6. I'm going to say. Okay. So obviously a bit of wire track at the top or whatever, or okay. Well, he's been trying since 1991. He's finally done it. World champion Mika Häkkinen, a winner in Belgium. Both Schumachers on the podium. Two British drivers, Coulthard and Button, in the top 5. Well, 42 points out of a possible 50 for the charging Häkkinen, the world champion. 6 points clear of Schumacher, 4 races to go. Coulthard up to 61. Barrichello losing touch with the top 3. Ralf Schumacher's podium takes him above Fisichella. 13 points for McLaren compared to Ferrari's 6 mean there's now an 8-point gap at the top, and Williams looking pretty good for that 3rd place now. Tony Jardine, let's talk about the start that you were a bit upset about.
Well, I mean, it took the spectacle away. It was as dull as Spa ditch water, to be very honest, and I don't think that the conditions warranted that. I think it was an overreaction from the accident in 1998. Here we are, and it seemed to me that the team owners and the drivers had badgered race director Charlie Whiting into starting behind a safety car. I'll tell you how conditions were. The end of lap 1, the safety car went in. By lap 5, the first cars were coming in for dry weather tyres, and the accident we're talking about in 98 happened down the hill when David Coulthard lost it over a drainage channel. I can understand, from a driver's point of view, it's their decision, and if Charlie makes that decision, he wants to avoid another accident. I can understand that. But, you know, it's part of the territory here at Spa-Francorchamps. It goes with it, you know.
When we spoke to Jenson Button, he was one of the drivers, and he did agree that it should start behind the safety car. He had a very good race, I felt, but had a daft 30 seconds in it, didn't he?
He did, but I took great pleasure from it because he went for it. Look at this. You know, he's got twice world champion Michael Schumacher breathing down his neck. He's trying to get past Jarno Trulli. He makes a mistake going the wrong way, going into the bus stop. So Schumacher does him. He still holds it all together. Now let's watch the next bit, going into La Source. Schumacher jumps Trulli. He sees a gap. He goes for it, makes a mistake, spins his mate Jarno Trulli around, but he still gets away with it. He's down the hill. He's still in the race. He lost another place there to Ralf Schumacher as well and dropped down to 5th place. But sensational driving from the young man.
One of those things I said to Jarno Trulli. Mika Häkkinen won in Belgium for the first time, despite at one stage looking as though he'd blown it.
Yeah, I mean, he had a quick spin. We think, you know, he got a tyre on the curb or something. Or he just caught this incident down near Stavelot, and he recovered. He'd been at about 5.5 seconds ahead. There's Schumacher just going through and taking the lead. And he recovered that and had to go past Schumacher twice, but Häkkinen was mighty.
He's on a roll at the moment, isn't he, the world champion?
Wet or dry. And I mean, even when it was wet in practice, he was always out there doing many, many laps, getting the car set up in both configurations.
Lots of entertainment here at Spa today, including an all-British battle between David Coulthard and young Jenson Button.
A little bit reminiscent of the end of Hockenheim, when Button was closing down on Coulthard, challenging him almost for 3rd place towards the end. But the superiority of the McLaren showing there, the top pen speed, the wonderful aerodynamics, and just squeezing past Button. But Button, a very safe driver in those situations, and the experienced drivers have accepted him into the fold.
He hasn't been around that long, but he's one of them already, isn't he?
He is. You've got to remember this is in his rookie season, and you know, 3rd place on the grid he started from, and he still got in the points yet again. It is a tremendous performance, and we're all saying, well, why is Frank Williams giving him away for 2 years? No one can quite understand that.
Eddie Jordan said that when he was our pre-race guest, that's for sure. You know, when we look back at this Belgian Grand Prix, I think in future years we'll say, oh, what a fantastic battle that was between Häkkinen and Schumacher.
How many times have we wanted this head-to-head? And, you know, this is Häkkinen making the great comeback. You know, the track was now bone dry. One long move across from Michael Schumacher there, the big red block across on the fin. But he knows it's desperate. Michael Schumacher knows he's hanging on. And the very next lap, on lap 40 coming round. Now, look at this. Come up to Zonta. Zonta freezes in his tracks. Oh, my God, it's Schumacher. Seen the red guy behind. Freezes in the middle. Leaves a gap either side of him. And Schumacher goes the wrong way round, much to the delight. There's Joe Ramirez, their team coordinator, clapping his hands at the front. And gets around him. But what a move. Do you see the way that McLaren changed direction as Mika Häkkinen made the move? That was pure control, aggression, whatever you want to call it. He's right on top of his game at the moment and gritting his teeth, going for that 3rd World Championship. And his mate Tommy Mäkinen, who has 3 World Championships in rallying, was here to support him as well.
Tony, thanks very much indeed. You have to get that rallying, don't you?
I do.
You do have to get that rallying in.
Decent, sensible, lovely sport, as Tony will attest.
And here's your complete Spa rundown. Hakkinen so classy all weekend, just too quick for Michael Schumacher. Ralf Schumacher's first podium since Melbourne in March. Coulthard needing more than fourth. Fifth, though, excellent for Button. Frentzen gets Jordan a point. Villeneuve 7th for BAR. Herbert the first Jaguar home. Sarlo 9th. Irvine makes the top 10. Diniz running throughout on slicks 11th. Then Zonta, Wirtz, Genet and Verstappen, the early stoppers. 2 laps adrift, De La Rosa and Mazzacani, the last finishers. Barrichello ran out of petrol. He did have the fastest lap, though. Lack of fuel pressure finished Alesi. A faulty gearbox accounted for Heidfeld. Electrical troubles finished a miserable weekend for Fisichella. Trulli, well, he couldn't continue after his tangle with Button. Next, it is the Italian Grand Prix, the full ITV service throughout the weekend, live qualifying and the race live build-up starting at 12:15. We saw 2 heavyweight contenders going eyeball to eyeball in Belgium. McLaren got the verdict this time, but Ferrari have home advantage when they meet again. Good night.